We are recording.
Yay! Hey there, everybody. It's Epic Aprille, Master Coach of Coach Speak and Serve, the administrator of the community, Coach Speak and Write for Profits, and the event producer for Spark and Hustle. I'm here with my girl, Nikki Woods, who will introduce herself momentarily and we'll share with you a little bit more about each of us here shortly. We just want to make sure that we invite everyone. Say hello. Make sure you introduce yourself inside the chat. This is your Media and Money Boot Camp. Boot Camp means just that. We are kicking you in the hiney with media and money today. So this is going to go really great, hard, fast, and we are going to answer all your questions. We anticipate we'll be here about 2 hours. We may go a little bit over. If we do, please note, and you have to run, as Nikki shared prior to this, that the recording will be available. We're going to be teaching primarily via video, just like you see us right now, but there are some slides that we will also send you in the wrap-up email that you'll receive after the actual training. Nikki, you want to add any hellos before I switch over to the slides?
No, I see Nicole is checked in, so that's good. I mean, I'm really excited that everybody is here and fired up and ready to go, because this really is a game changer for your business. And so I am super excited that Aprille has paired up with me, because, you know, one of the conversations that we've had many, many times is like, people are like, oh, great, we're going to get media. But then they're kind of like confused on how it translates to more revenue in your business. So I'm excited that we're going to make that, we're going to bridge the gap for you today. And so it is going to be amazing. I'm ready just to get to it.
All right, let's get to it. Let me turn off my messenger, actually. Hold on one second. Because we're recording. Oh, we're not recording the screen. Oh, no, we are going to be recording the screen, so hold on.
Yeah, so we don't want to see any messages pop up. Yeah, you were chatting in the Q&A. Yes, Leslie, I'm glad you found your way to the chat. Oh, I like that, Nicole. Nicole is your GPS doc. I help frustrated and overwhelmed patients and family caregivers navigate the complicated healthcare system. I am so in love with that, Nicole. That is awesome. Cheryl needs help packaging your message. Good, we'll be talking about that. Yeah, you do. You were doing too much, Leslie. You're welcome, Nicole. Absolutely. Hey, yeah, yes, when you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. I love that. Hey, Dominique Hart. It's good to see you.
All right, so I'm good.
Okay.
Let's rock.
Let's rock.
Sharing my screen. Oh, Lord, and I still
Good morning, everybody.
I know. Good morning. Good morning. All right, so good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you are taking this, whether you are live inside Media and Money Bootcamp with myself and Nikki Woods, or you are catching the replay. We're very excited about the fact that we get the opportunity to share with you some things that come really naturally to us. This is what we do every day. This is our life, media and money. I love what Bill Gates says. He says if he was down to his last dollar, he would spend it on public relations, he would spend it on PR, he would spend it on media. And that should tell you something. And I think one of the benefits to being an entrepreneur is really understanding who you should be listening to, who you should be following. And I pay attention to billionaires. I pay attention to places that I want to be. I don't really necessarily want to be a billionaire, but I want to have a billionaire brain. I want to have a billionaire mindset. And I want to do the things and adopt the habits of highly successful individuals, not just barely successful individuals, but highly successful, almost seemingly unattainable. And so if Bill Gates would spend his last dollar on PR, then I think this is a definitely a worthwhile conversation and training that we're going to be having here today. Oh, crap. That part.
Right. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, this is how dedicated I was. This is in the Red Velvet Cake studio, Tom Joyner's studio. And this is probably on a Saturday. And this is where I spent most of my time for over 8 years. That's my youngest son when he was really little. It's probably about, maybe even 7 or 8 years ago. But that's how much I loved my job. And so just to tell you a little bit about me, I am a mom of two. So that usually comes first. I have two teenage boys. I was in radio and television for a very long time, so 2 decades. I started out in St. Louis, and I went to Connecticut, and I worked for ESPN for a little bit before going to Boston and co-hosting a morning radio show there. Then I went to Chicago and spent 10 years in Chicago. And then my last job was with Tom Joyner as his executive producer. And so for me, it really was about, changing, my life. So my life was very career focused for 2 decades. And even though I had a family and friends, they didn't see a lot about, a lot of me. So it really was about deciding that I wanted to do something different. And so, I had started, Nikki Woods Media about 5 years ago because I knew I eventually wanted to transition. And, that's what I did a year and a half ago. And these are some of my favorite interviews. I mean, if you know Tyrese or Tank or Genuine, this is one of the interviews that I did with them in the Red Velvet Cake studio outside. And I really just love media, and I love visibility, and I know what the media can do for people. And so that really has been my passion for the year and a half. I want everybody to get the visibility that their business or their brand needs. That was another fun interview. That was with Mio not too long ago. And so I really have talked to some of the biggest names in the business and outside of it. I mean, I've done interviews with President Obama. I've done interviews with, some of the great celebrities and movie stars, but also just the influencers. And I've also booked some of the great names, and some of the favorite people, my favorite people to book were the experts, the entrepreneurs, the speakers, and the authors, because I really knew that they had information that people needed, and I wanted to help them get the word out. So that is why I'm here today. That is what I do. That is what I love. And that is what I know. That is what I know because I've done it for 20 years. And I have the unique perspective, having been part of the media for so long. But then I also have the added bonus of really knowing how you can help it, change your business. I don't talk a lot about the money because that's not really my thing. So that's why I brought in the expert, Aprille, to do this with me, because I want to focus on the media. But I do know that the media can change your money, and I know how to make it work. And so Aprille is going to help us with that part of it. But I'm extremely glad that you're here. I'm extremely glad that everybody wants to get this, because I think it is going to be a game changer for your business and your life. And that's what we really want. We really want, lives to change, yours included.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nikki. But I just have to hold on a minute. First of all, did anyone know what's going on with Genuine?
So let me tell you, this is what's so great about having such a long career. I mean, a lot of these people are my friends. And so Genuine and I have had this thing for 20 years. Like when Pony came out, I was interviewing him on a college radio station. I mean, that just tells you how long I've been doing this. And so
that's obvious. He's like smitten.
He does this all the time, and people always ask, what's up with you and Genuine? I was like, we have a thing. But we're really just, nothing's ever happened. We're really just friends. But I think that what I do really, really well, and what I love to teach my clients, is really how to engage with an interviewer, or as the interview, the person doing the interview, as the interviewer or the interviewee, how you can really engage and build a relationship as opposed to just doing an interview. I mean, this really is a conversation.
Yeah,
I'm having with 3 of the sexiest men in the business. So I'll just say that.
Yeah.
But it really is just a conversation. But that's a skill that people need to learn. And that's what I want them to get to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So for those of you who are familiar with me, hello again. For those of you who are not, I'll just briefly just share a few things about myself. I hate bullet points, so I'm going to be all over the place. I have been an entrepreneur full-time since 2007. 2008 is when I started making money. So in 2008, right, because there's a difference there, right? So 2008 was 2007, actually, I got fired, and that really thrust me into full-time entrepreneurship. And from there, I learned very quickly how to build a parachute flying, already getting pushed off the ledge. And in 2008 is when I started my first, it really wasn't my first venture. I had 3 businesses before that, but it was the first one that the money came real fast. And I mean, within 10 days, I was already in profit mode. And at that time, I was in real estate. And I had already made, at that time, more money then the job that fired me after a month, it would have taken me 6 months to generate that money. And so I love entrepreneurship. I love the freedom of it. I love what it can do. I love the chaos of it. I started in this development space in 2013. I launched my first women's empowerment brand. As a result of the women's empowerment brand, people start requesting that I help them do what I was doing with the women's empowerment, but for them. And that's where Coach Speak and Serve came from. Many of you only know me from Coach Speak and Serve, but this wasn't my first thing in this development space. Coach Speak and Serve was born from Women Recharge, and technically, legally, is actually a division of Women Recharge. And then from there, I started producing live events, live conferences. Many of you may know me from either Fabulous New You conferences, Confessions Live, the Epic Conference, now Tori Johnson. I also leverage varying types of media. I remember Oprah saying one time that, you know, someone asked her that, I can't remember if it was Barbara Walters or who it was, but they asked her, when did you know you're going to be a talk show host? And she said, I didn't. She was like, I'm a talk show host. I'm an inspirer. She's like, I'm whatever I need to be to get the message out. The message is what the message is. The stories are what the stories are. We're going to talk to you today about stories. Mm-hmm. And I'm the same way. I love media. I love social media. I love traditional media. I love being the media. And I also love being a part of it. And so I started producing some films. The first film I produced, actually, Nikki is the producer. I'm the executive producer, but she produced Unbroken Resilience. That was a crowdfunding campaign that we run for my first film, which was a drama. And then I produced a documentary for entrepreneurs called Driven last year. I'm on my 6th book, I think now. I've done a whole lot of things online. It's really pretty amazing. We've generated almost $2 million now online, close to, and we're really excited about that. I'm excited about the way that we generate money, with integrity, with care, with focus. I'm not everyone's style, because I'm very direct and kind of in your face, but it works. In regards to the media, the first major national media coverage I ever got was in May of 2012, which was in Good Housekeeping magazine. That's me and my daughter. And it was an article called Consider Me a Tofu Lover. And that is me and Maya. She was 17 at the time. She's 23 now. And this was my first opportunity. And then this opportunity actually came from Nikki. Nikki hooked me up this was my 40th birthday. I was on television in Chicago, and she hooked me up on on a morning show there. And Nikki, has, like I said, as a friend, and as we both coach each other. So we work with each other. We coach each other. We're business partners. We're friends. And this has just really been a testament of we're walking the walk. This isn't anything, we don't have to Google any content. This is all just really in our head. And so I'm excited to be able to share that with you. This is a talk show that was a local talk show here in Oklahoma for many years. And I actually co-hosted this live show. It was an hour. That's Keely Dorian in the middle. That is Janice Cranmer on the left, and I'm on the right. And I was a co-host on that show for 42 episodes. And it was a phenomenal experience. And I'm going to share with you how I landed that. You're not even going to believe how I landed it, but I'm going to share that with you today. Nick?
Yeah, so you know what? This really is a great opportunity, and I think that Aprille kind of alluded to it earlier, that, this is going to be kind of fast-paced. We're going to give you a lot of information, but we want to make the most of this time. And so we want you to kind of shut everything else down, Facebook, your phone, turn off the notifications, all that you can do, just to really be present with us for the next couple of hours. You will, like I said, have access to the replay, so we'll send that out. It'll be forever access. You'll be fine. So you can go back and, research, but you'll just have this as a resource, as a part of your library, as an entrepreneur, speaker, and author who wants to get more media and make more money. And then, of course, we'll be presenting you with an opportunity that we think will help you even further. But for now, we just want you to kind of zero in on us and focus so that we can give you as much as we can pour into you today. So today we're going to kind of go through it and we'll ping pong back and forth. And I'm sure that, Aprille will have some things to add to my part, and I may have some things to add to Aprille's part. But what we really want to do is to start off with the basics, the prerequisites, and that's brand clarity. And so just as business owners in general, you should know this for a lot of different reasons, but it's also really important for the media. And then we'll talk about the media training, and we'll go through some really specific things that you need to start doing in order to get more media in 2018. And then, money training will come with Aprille for part 3. And then we'll talk about how you can really become your own publicist long-term. And so that's kind of how we're going to flow today.
All right. Keep in mind that we're not going to be teaching on these slides. So if you want to take an image of it, a screenshot, feel free. You don't have to do that. We're going to send this PDF out to you so you'll have it. But we just for our A-type people who like to see these things, here you go. So I have to say that on the brand clarity, please go ahead and just take a snapshot of this just so you have it, because I'm going to switch and go into full screen here and stop sharing my screen. So 1, 2, and 3. The screen share is stopped. So thank you everyone who showed up, who shared. You can see all the amazing individuals that are here, all the men and women that want to do amazing things and what it is that they're putting out into the world. One of the things that I really enjoy about entrepreneurship is understanding the brand element. I know that people take it really for granted, and I know many of you may feel clear on your brand, and if you are, then thank you for allowing me this grace for the people who are not clear, okay? So if you are clear, type in a number 1. If you're a little fuzzy, type in a number 2, and if you're like, you know what, I don't even know, type in a number 3. 1 if you're clear, 2 if you're fuzzy, 3 if you like, I don't even know, come get me, right? So make sure you type that in so we can get a pulse and a gauge so I'll know how much time to spend there. All right, so 1 is clear. All right, very good. And this is very good. So we have some fuzzies, we have some clears. Okay, good. So this will be a good reinforcement for those of you who are clear. And then this will be good information for those of you who are a little fuzzy. So there's several things that you want to really consider, right? It's when we talk about branding, people get very caught up on the visuals. And there's 2 elements. And on your notes, please keep really good notes. On your notes, in this part 1 that we're in, and this is the prerequisites, brand clarity, I have to say this because you can't get media if you don't know what the heck to say, who you're really talking to, and what your message is, what the story is about. The media you're just going to be confused. And furthermore, you can't get the money. These 2 things are really tied very closely together. Like they are. As soon as you're clear on this, then the money and the media then make more sense. So on the brand clarity element, just a few points that I wanted to make sure that I made were that the 2 elements of the brand are the visuals, but the first before that really is the DNA, or what I call the concept, right? So you can call it DNA concept, but it really is the meat of the brand. It is the brand. It is, what are the core values associated with this brand? What are the audience desires? Meaning, if your avatar, so for example, for Coach Speak and Serve, our avatar, her name is Sarah. For the most part, my audience is women. We have men, obviously we have men in our audience, but the majority of them are women. And Sarah has very specific desires, right? In my women's empowerment brand, my avatar is Wanda. And Wanda has very specific desires. They don't necessarily want the same thing. Wanda doesn't necessarily want to be an entrepreneur, but Sarah does. Sarah's very clear. Sarah has desires of being an entrepreneur. She's purpose-driven. Sarah has been burned by other coaches, or she's exhausted, or she may be brand new, but for the most part, she's already spent money in other places, and it hasn't been paying off for her for whatever the reason is. So Sarah is a little bit frustrated, and she's just ready to hit the go button. She's tired of not making money in her business or making the money that she thinks that she should. And she is ready. Wanda, and I'm explaining this to you so that you understand, so that you can make sure that you have this breakdown for your own avatar. Mm-hmm. So Wanda needs permission to be herself. Wanda has been through traumatic experiences in her life. Wanda is ready to overcome them. Wanda needs permission for somebody to tell her that she is enough. Wanda has a story to tell, but doesn't know how to tell it. Wanda doesn't necessarily want to be an author, but she still has a voice, and it's been muffled by life experiences, dead relationships, and so on. And so those are two very different individuals. And so I speak to those individuals very differently, right? When I get down to the women's empowerment stuff, I'm definitely a softer person, right? The business stuff, I'm a hard ass. To Wanda, I'm not a hard ass at all. I may be straightforward and direct, but I'm a little softer. But when it comes to business, it's really black and white for me. And so then I get to play between both of those worlds within the brand. So make sure that you're very clear on what your audience desires. As you can see, my avatar has a name, so that for anything that I do, I'm always only talking to that one individual. And I should go full screen when I'm teaching, and you probably should too, huh, Nick?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. So, all right. So, y'all know I got ADD. So hold on, let me go back and see where I was. Okay, audience desires. So when you're thinking about what the person wants, you really should know everything about them. And that leads me to your audience checkpoints. And those are the psychographics, which are what do they shop? What are they thinking? Where do they hang out? The geographics, where are they? The demographics. What does this person's, are they married? Are they single? What percentage of them are married? You should have at least a nice list of 20 things about this individual that you know. And here's how I'm so clear with my audience. Like, I'm so clear, which is why I make good money. That's the bottom line. The reason why I make money is because I can speak directly to what people want and what people don't want within the brands that I manage. And once you can do that, then it's easy to attract the media, because you know what outlet has the same avatar, or you will after this training that Nikki will show you. So when you're clear on the avatar, then you can get clear on everything else. You understand what their needs are. You understand what they don't want. You understand what pisses them off. You understand what they will respond to, what they won't. So those things are important. So make sure that you have a checklist of those things. So I typically start with, is it male or female, or any gender? Is it black or white or Asian or any race? Are they married, or is 70% of your audience? Like for me, the majority of my audience is married, coincidentally. Like a lot of my audience is married, and so I need to know that. When I am at a live event and I hear, and someone comes up to me, I know instinctively if this is Sarah, Wanda, or not for me. Which also means that I know the avatars of my super friends like Nikki Woods. And I'll say, oh, you know what? You should really talk to Nikki. Because if Nikki's clear on her brand, then it's easy for me to send a referral to her because she's clear. Right? So because she's clear, then it's easy for me to then connect people with her. Does this make sense, everyone? Okay. Nikki, you need something?
Oh, no. Sorry.
Okay. All right, super clear. And then you go into their pain points. So the only reason that, and this is good, again, reiteration for those of you who are aware, because you can always refine. I've rebranded 4 times since I've been in this business. And the more I communicate with my audience, the more I learn more about them. And so understanding what ails them is the only reason you exist. It's the only reason the media wants to talk to you, because you have a solution. It's the only reason that people will buy your products and services is because you have a solution. That's it. They have no reason to buy if you don't know what is ailing them. If you don't understand what the problem is, then they have no reason to swipe their credit card or spend any money with you, right? You all are here because you have a need. We know that. We know what that need is, and that's how we attracted you, right? And through a series of other teachings that we did, then you landed here, right? So all of these things work. So make sure that you have a list of at least 3 to 5 pain points of your audience that is going to really drill in for you what they need. So then it makes it, and this is a sidebar, it makes it easy for you to create products and services when you know what the problems are. Because all you're doing is creating products and services and creating content that then resolves the pain, right? The other thing I want you to be thinking about is, how are you the solution? right? So like everything is solution oriented. A lot of times entrepreneurs start off with this whole idea that we're very egoic, right? It's like, I want to be a speaker because I have a story to tell. I want to tell everyone, the world, that what I overcame. Nobody really cares what you overcame until you make it relevant for them. You can only make it relevant for them when you understand who them is, right? So once you understand them, then you can start to see how you become the solution. Just like when you write a book, right? People often want to write a book and they want to share their story, but you've got to make that story relevant to the individuals that you're wanting to connect to, because that's all they care about. Otherwise, they don't care about Aprille or Nikki Woods or Raquel Dawson or Rayshawn Chambers or none of us, right? It has to be relevant for them in their life. And how is this going to help me, right? The Witham effect. What's in it for me? All right. And so then from there, you want to be able to create a succinct statement on how you can help people. So when people say, what do you do? So for example, when people say, hey, Aprille, what do you do? I say, hey, my name is Aprille. I help purpose-driven entrepreneurs do three things. Number one, I help them get clear with their brand. I help them build an audience, and then I help them monetize the brand, right? So you want to be clear on that, on exactly that. Leslie says, I'm the opposite. I didn't want to be a speaker. I have solutions, and I've learned that a calling can be something you never wanted to do but can't stop doing it. Absolutely. Yes, it can. You're compelled. People are attracted to you because of it. You're like, this isn't listen, Coach We Can Serve. This is how this happened. I never wanted to coach y'all. This was not the thing. I was trying to empower women, burn bras, and do my thing. But for whatever, people were attracted to the fact that I was able to, from nothing, create this movement for women. And so then they wanted to say, hey, I have a movement. I want to be a therapist. I want to help children. I want to help single dads. I want to help women too. And so then as a result of that, again, branding and being clear, then people started to come out of the woodworks. And so those are the prerequisites. And so I wanted to make sure that we touched on that and we didn't just escape that, because we don't want you, what Nikki's going to be teaching you about the media, I don't want you out there willy-nilly just, trying to pitch the media, but then there's a little bit of unclarity. And as you can see, half of the people said that they were a little fuzzy, and then half of the people didn't even answer the question, which means that they're fuzzy and they didn't want to admit it. Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure that we're clear there. And so if you have any questions about the prerequisites, this is your time to ask, so we can, before we move into the media element. So any questions, Nick?
No, Rayshawn said he can't be running with no bra, or she can't be running with no bra, so can't burn the bra. You are funny.
So does anyone have any questions about the prerequisites on the brand clarity element?
I do have a question that somebody asked and that I wanted you to speak to. They asked about the avatars. So I say you should only have one avatar per business or brand. What say you?
I say that I think that what happens is you have an overall avatar, and then sometimes we segment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think there's segmentation within it. Don't confuse that with you create. So let me give you an example. Like Coca-Cola, right? Coca-Cola is a brand, but they also market differently their different products. So the products within their brand, they have Dasani water, they have Sprite, they have diet products. And though the Sprite, they typically wrap around sports ads. I don't know why they do that, but for whatever the reason. The water commercials, those are for a different avatar. The Diet Coke, that's for a different segment of their audience. At the end of the day, their audience wants refreshing beverages. And then under that, they market differently their different products. And so I definitely believe in segmentation. So the answer is yes.
You can.
From a segmentation standpoint.
Great question. Kimberly wanted to know if you have a template to use for brand clarity.
You mean besides the breakdown I just did? That is the template.
Yeah, nothing.
I'm not being a smart ass. That is the template.
Yeah, you have it.
Yeah, you should literally, each of those bullet points should be a separate sheet of paper, and you should literally answer everything that I just went over. So make sure that when this is done, that you go back and do that actual work. And that is the clarity. Like literally, I just gave you the breakdown.
So somebody asked about the avatar. Is it constantly being tweaked and refined?
As people grow and people, and you get to a higher level in your business, you'll find that, and as your people grow. So like, as my audience grows, then they have different needs. And then I find that there's a segment of my audience that wants to make $25K a month, and not just the wishy 25K. You know, they're already making 12 and they're having a hard time getting over that 15 hump. You know, so you'll find that as you consistently build up your audience, that they'll also grow. And so, yes, because this is a very human business, you're going to find that you'll be refining and tweaking, and you're going to be growing as the leader as well. And if you're open and coachable, then you're going to be shifting along with them. And I think that's really attractive. You all, for those of you who have been following me, you have seen me grow, you know, over the last 6 years or however long you've been following. And so that's really important.
And just from my standpoint, I mean, I've been a brand for 20 years. And so you can imagine when I first started, how different I was, single, you know, in the club. But I think Aprille makes a really good point that when your brand's foundation is solid, it can easily grow with you and your audience grows. So even though I was doing different things, my brand has always been at the very base, the same thing. And because, you know, I was 20 in the clubs, people were 20 in the clubs, and now we're all, you know, with families and in a different stage. So, but you have to get the very foundation of your brand right first.
Yes.
So that's really important.
Yeah. Well, now the club is Fiji. So that's what we do now. Yes. Ginger says, when tapping into pain points, how do you know this? Are you asking them? Survey? Well, yes and no, right? Mm-hmm. So it's like, the answer is yes to that. There's a tool called QuantCast. I'll type it. Nick, can you find QuantCast? Yeah.
I got it.
Podcast is a great resource for research on your audience. And initially, most people just start what they know. You know, most of you may have been your avatar. So I think sometimes people make it more difficult than what it is. You know what I'm saying? I was my avatar on both. I was Wanda and I was Sarah. Mm-hmm. So I know what her pain is. I know what his pain is when it comes to this. And so when you know that, then you just ask yourself the question and ask others as well. There's another question that says, when you have more than one profession and you are rebranding, how do you meld the brand? Well, I'm an announcement type person, and I believe in, it depends on what your professions were and if they're easily able to merge this way, and if it makes sense. And if it does make sense, then, and let me say this, I am a professional business coach. So my response to some of your questions is going to be, you need a coach. Some of my responses will be, you can do it on your own. So please note that my responses to when I say that you need a coach is not a sales pitch or for you to hire me. You don't ever have to hire me. But I'm just telling you what the truth is to mitigate time and you wasting money or effort. So if I were you, and I don't know who that is, I can't see the whole name. Twink. If I were you, I would seek a brand coach. If the two brands that you're putting together are not clear, if they are clear, I probably still would have a session with a brand coach, whether it's Nikki, me, Jay Stone, Stacey Ferguson, whoever it is. I think that it's worth a one-on-one conversation session to make sure that you're clear. So what you're putting out there is what it needs to be. If you're already...
No, I was just going to give him a quick example with you and me, because when Aprille and I first met, Aprille came down, she's in Oklahoma. She came down to Dallas and we went to lunch. Do you remember this, Aprille? No.
Which lunch? Which lunch?
Well, I know, but I said when we first met. So we met at a conference after we had followed each other on social media. And so she came down and she took me to lunch and we were talking and she said, so Nick, you know, she's like, so well, tell me what you do. Tell me more about what you do. And so I told her, she said, really? She said, I don't get that at all from your brand. And so a lot of times you can be putting out information that you think is crystal clear about who you are and what you do, but that's not the perception that other people get. And your brand is really what that perception is and not what you hope it is or what you think it is or what you want it to be. It's really that perception. And so it's hard sometimes, even if you're a brand coach or a brand expert, to really steer your brand in the direction that you want it to go. So I'm just 86ing I'm just high-fiving Aprille on what she said. I mean, it's really important that you have some outside eyes, even if it's just a colleague that said, that gives you feedback on your brand.
Also, to add to that, I have a brand coach. So I didn't rebrand my brand when we decided to do and we want to move forward. But when we decided to do Coach Speak and Serve and to spin off of Women Recharge, I hired someone to help me with that separation because it was getting blended. I was doing everything under the Women's Empowerment brand when it wasn't Women's Empowerment at all. But I didn't know. I was like, listen, I don't have time. I'm busy. I don't even know what I want to call this thing. And I had a brand coach design the logo and everything. So someone said, how much does it cost? That really varies. I mean, it can cost, let me say this. You're talking about the brand, which is everything.
Everything.
It's everything. That's what stems on everything. So you could spend for sure thousands. I mean, 2 hours with me is $1,500. So that's that, but that's not rebranding. That is conceptualizing. So the visual elements, and that comes, with something else, photo shoots and videos and content and copywriting. So it really just depends. You can totally spend, like our clients spend, our package for branding and like redoing all that is $50,000. So you can spend a few thousand or you can go all out. So it really just varies on the expert that you're hiring. All right. So I think we can take one more question about this and then move on. Dr. Laura says, I have a couple therapists practice and I also train therapists on how to get started speaking. Should I have 2 separate websites for both brands or separate them? I have a therapist practice. Yes, because what you're doing is 2 separate things. Your practice as a therapist is just that. Those avatars are 2 different things. The clients that you're seeing are not the therapists that you're coaching. Mm-hmm. So those are 2 different businesses to me. Rosin says, I'm a financial coach. I concentrate on millennials, but I'm unclear about the brand because people of various sex, races, and ages need money help. What's your opinion? My opinion is, who do you want to talk to? Just because, if you want to talk to millennials and what is their makeup? If you do the exercise, I'm telling you, every single person here should have the exercise done. The exercise, literally, break it down. You need to think it through. You need to have it on paper. Do you hear how I'm able to tell you the names of my avatars, what they need? You should know that. And so my opinion, I don't have an opinion. The facts are you really need to go back and make sure that you have all that lined out so that you're clear on what that looks like. And be okay with, if you're not clear today, remember, you're going to constantly evolve. And let me just speak to this. People think, so she's like, I'm a financial coach. And Rosin, I'm not saying this is what you're saying. I just want to say this because someone may be thinking it. I'm a financial coach. Everyone needs financial coaching. Yeah, they do, but not from you. Not from you. They don't want to hear from you. Everybody don't want to hear from you. They don't like your delivery. Everybody don't like your education. Everybody don't like everything about you. So you have to be conscious of who is going to be attracted to you in the way that you deliver. Just like me, right? Some of y'all are new to me. You're like, oh my gosh, she loud. She blinks too much, whatever, so everybody kind of has their own thing. So know that it's very based on who you really want to and who's willing to listen to you. Okay. All right, let's move forward so we can move into the element where we discuss and we talk about the Nikki.
The Nikki part.
Let's do the Nikki part. Nikki, I'm tossing to you.
So the Nikki part was the cue that it is the Nikki part, right? I got it. Okay, so I love this. And like Aprille, I am really focused on people that have really attained the kind of success that I'm looking for. Not necessarily the dollars, even though I'm not going to say I'd never want to be a billionaire. I think it would be a nice experience to have. But I look to the people who have created the kind of success that I want. And I think Richard Branson has done such a phenomenal job with, not only establishing one brand, but then being able to build multiple brands off of that. And he said that publicity is absolutely critical, that a good PR story is infinitely more effective than a front page ad. And I just had this conversation during a consultation with somebody who spent an ungodly amount of money on commercials and is not getting the effect that he wants. And my point is that people know it's a commercial and people feel a certain way about a commercial, but they feel an entirely different way if they heard you in an interview or if they saw, a news coverage of you. I mean, it just says something totally different. And so what I really focus on is how that you can get the media organically so that you can create the business that you love. And so I just want to kind of tie in the whole branding thing before I start talking about how to create a pitch and submit it. But Aprille was very right. I mean, the very basis of what you do is your brand, and that stems off into all sorts of different things. And so you really want to make sure that you know who you're talking to, because, you know, media is great. Getting, you know, kind of extra coverage is great. But if you're not talking to the people who are going to buy your service, then to me, it's kind of like, what is the point? I mean, this should pay off in some way, and you should have your goals as to how you want it to pay off. But for most of the people that I know, they want to make some money because of it at the end of the day. And so you want to make sure that you're very clear on who you're supposed to be talking to, because that determines the kind of media outlets you'll need to be featured on or in, you know, in order to really make it pay off at the end. So that really is the tie-in. And you, like Aprille said, if you understand the pain points, if you know how to talk to them, then that's the difference. And I'll just give you a quick example, and I use this a lot, and I probably need to stop using it because she's probably gonna call me one day and say, why do you keep using me as an example? But I will use it. So, you know, the Tom Joyner Morning Show, you know, I produced that for 8 years, and we have a very specific makeup in our audience. It's, you know, well, we hope that it's 35, but it's probably a little bit older, but it's like 35 to 55. And, you know, it's mainly African-American women. I would say the majority of them, you know, have kids or grandkids, majority single. And of course that puts you, and this just goes back to Aprille talking about the financial coach thing. I mean, that puts you in a certain position financially. Most people, you know, they may have a good job, but they're still, you know, kind of trying to make things work. You know, they still paycheck to paycheck, that kind of thing. And so when we were looking for a financial expert, we really wanted somebody that was extremely credible. But we also wanted somebody that could deliver the information that we wanted. And so when we first were looking for people, we ended up, you know, we went through all sorts of trial and error, couldn't find the right person. We really wanted somebody that made a statement as far as credibility goes. And so we ended up with Melody Hobson. And for anybody that's familiar with her, she, you know, she does a ton of media. She's on, you know, Good Morning America a lot. She does CNN a lot. And she's also the president of Ariel Capital, which is an extremely big African-American owned fund. And she's also married to George Lucas, who is the Star Wars creator. So she is a billionaire. So let's just say that she's a billionaire. She's African-American, lovely. I've known her forever. And when she did her first segment, we were all just kind of sitting there looking at each other, because she was talking about cryptocurrency and she was talking about all this kind of stuff. And we're like, our people are just trying to figure out how to save for school shoes. You know, it's a different kind of mentality. And so, you know, we had to have a long conversation about, this is, you know, our audience. So even if this is not your ideal client, because obviously she's very established, you have to be able to talk to our audience. So we really have to kind of monitor the topics and that sort of thing. And, you know, and like I said, I love her, and it wasn't, it's not a negative at all, because she's great at what she does. And after that, she was, you know, spot on. But you have to know who you're talking to in order for it to make sense. So none of our people would have been able to sign up for her if she was, you know, selling a service or if she had something for them, because they couldn't relate during that first segment. So, you know, like I said, after we redirected, it was amazing, but you all need to get it from the very beginning, because a lot of us aren't, you know, we're not Melody, and we don't have that already established credibility in the media. So you have to get it right from the get-go so that you don't miss out on your opportunities. Okay, so let's talk about our first thing, which is pitching. So pitching, and let me just give you a little bit of context for that. So to craft a pitch really is kind of like the angle for your interview, and you can do this in two different ways. So you can write a press release, which we're not necessarily going to talk about today, but you can write a press release and you can submit it to a lot of different organizations, and that's, you know, how that works. Or you can just write a media pitch, which is more like kind of a quick email to a journalist to say, you know, this is really what you know, I have going on. This is my angle. This is what we want to talk about. The most important thing that I want you to walk away with on crafting a pitch and submitting it is that the pitch is not a sales pitch. This is not, oh, you know, I'm Nikki. I have a book. I want to tell your readers about my book. And let's talk about my book. That's not what a pitch is. A pitch really is where you show the value that you're going to bring to the audience. So my job when I was, the producer of the Tom Joyner Morning Show, my job was not to help you sell your book or to help you sell your tax service or help you get financial clients or to get relationship clients. That was not my job. My job was to get as much value in front of my audience as possible. And once people get this, as you look to do your own PR, once you get this, you will not have a problem getting media because we are constantly looking for value for our audience. And unfortunately, well, not or fortunately or unfortunately, we are in such a 24/7 constant content creation kind of mode when it comes to the media now. There's so many media outlets. We no longer, it's like when I first started, and this is dating myself, but when I first started, it was still like a 9-to-5 business. Like it was 9 to 5, maybe you worked from 6 to 10, but it wasn't like, we were constantly looking for news unless it was breaking. And then you might have gotten up on a Saturday and gone to work. But now we are in a constant 24/7 cycle. And so we are always looking for experts. We are always looking for people that can explain things, but you have to be able to craft and submit a pitch in the way that shows the value that you have to offer. And so that's extremely important. And so if you've written a book and the book is, 20 ways to make your life better or 20 ways to live a more authentic life, then you want to email a journalist and say, I want to share with your audience 3 ways on how they can make their life more authentic. And if you do that and you nail it during the interview, you will never have a problem with media calling you and asking you to be on. And I guarantee if you nail that interview, then you will get clients because people will hear you and they say, that's exactly who I need. You've already detailed who the audience is, so you know exactly what pain points they're working with. And they will say, I need to either go buy the book or I need to become a client or I need to go hear her speak. You will absolutely rock it out, and that will definitely change what your revenue looks like. But you have got to focus on, showing the value. I have a client, bless her heart, and I really just, because I'll pitch for people in certain instances because obviously I have the connections, and so I can get a lot of media placement just because I've been doing it for so long. And so I have a client, she came and she was like, I want to get pitched. She's speaking. She's an activist and she's speaking and, on the steps of some government building, and it's a big thing. And, and so I was writing the press release. She's like, but I want to mention my book. And I was like, but this isn't about the book. And so she's like, okay. And so I sent her the press release. She came back. She's like, but I want to talk about my book. But I'm like, but this is not about the book. And she's like, okay. And so then we got some placement. We got some people who really wanted to do interviews with her. And so I was like, well, you need to send me some questions that you think would be good for people to ask you just so they have some kind of general. 3 of her questions were about the book. Like, this is not about the book. So I get it that we are really hardwired to want to sell our service. But that's not what this is. This is you showcasing the value. And so I talk about it probably almost every time I open my mouth, because once people make that mind switch, then media will come a lot easier. So really, really kind of focus on that. And then once you submit it, that really is a process. Knowing your target client, your ideal client, and your target audience member will help you craft that list. So if you're a singer and you want to talk, you want to showcase, because entertainment brings value too. So we also, we always look for celebrities and that kind of, thing, because they bring entertainment value. They bring, kind of like the razzle dazzle. So say if you're a singer, you don't want to pitch a talk radio show necessarily, because they may not be the people who buy music. So you want to be on music formatted stations. Or if your ideal client is, 55 and older, you might want to then consider talk radio or look for the publications where that is their audience. But it doesn't make any sense necessarily for you to be on a hip hop formatted station and you're talking to people about retirement. They're not going to be your clients. And so even if you're an expert, and we'll go back to the financial expert, finances and relationships are just easy to talk about because everybody wants to talk about them and they're just really easy for examples. But if you're a financial expert, just like Aprille said, you may be able to talk about every single financial thing and talk to every kind of financial audience. But you want to talk to the people who are going to buy your services. And if you just want to be considered a media resource, because there are people out there that want to do that, and you work for a corporation, so you're not necessarily going to be selling services, you just want to have that visibility, then you have to learn how to tailor not only your pitch, but also your content so that you can speak to different audiences. So even if, like I said, you just have a general want for media, you have to know what audiences that you're talking to so that you can, tailor your content. Just like we had to kind of redirect Melody, you have to be able to redirect your content from different audiences. And so normally, I say, and we'll talk a little bit more about this when we get to the media list, you really want to develop relationships because it's hard to pitch media if they don't know who you are. And a lot of us are not known to the media because we're experts. We've been doing our thing. We've been focused on our careers. So we don't necessarily, have that relationship. So we're going to talk a lot about that in the creative media list, because the best way to get media is to have people on your media list who actually know who you are and have a relationship. So we'll talk about that there.
Nick,
yes.
Do you want to answer questions on your points, or do you want to, because people have questions while you're teaching, so do you want to stop at each point, or do you want to wait till the end?
Let's, because I want to make sure everybody gets what they need. So
okay. So how do you want me to do that? You want me to just ping you? Okay.
Yeah, and if you could tell me the question, because I think I might have missed some.
Oh yeah, I got you on that. I'm writing them down. Okay. Dr. Laura wants to know, how do you know, if you want to pitch a segment, how do you know who the right person is to pitch to?
No, that's a great question, because there were a lot of people at Tom, with the Tom Joyner Morning Show who do different things. So we had one person that really kind of booked the celebrity interviews. I usually, book like the experts and things like that. But there are also people like Roland Martin, who books his own guests most of the time, and Jackie Reed, who books her guests most of the time. If you don't have contact information, I really would suggest that you get the contact information of the producer, which would have been me. Because usually what we do is we funnel it to the right people. But what you should know is what they do. So if you're a relationship expert and you really talk to women, I would say that Jackie Reed would be a perfect spot for you. If you're an expert and you talk more about hard news, like Roland Martin would be the spot for you. So even when you email me, I would say, hey, my name is Laura. I'm a couples therapist. I love to work with women. And so I think I would be a great guest for Jackie's show. I really want Jackie's segment. I really want to showcase the top 3 things that, your female audience members can do to create more stable relationships or whatever it is. So you really want to know, because you want to show respect for the audience, because quite frankly, I was the gatekeeper to 8 million people. And so if I'm going to put you in front of 8 million people, I want you to know and understand exactly what you're about to get. And so it is important to, and I think Aprille is talking to Laura, it really is important to know who's in charge. Because if I'm the executive producer and you email me and you say, hey, Kim, because Kim was the producer before me, but you haven't done your research, so you don't know there's a switchover. And with social media, it is so much easier to do it now. You can Google and you can find out who the current producer is and at least spell their name right. So you do want to always update your media list, but you really should kind of just narrow down. And most radio stations still have like receptionists. So if you don't know who you should send your pitch to, call them and ask them. I'd like to pitch the Tom Joyner Morning Show. I do this. Who do you think I should send it to? And they'll give you an answer. But you really should know it.
Good stuff. There's another question Kimberly asked, and I'm answering some of these questions as well.
Oh, okay, good.
Kimberly, I think it was Kimberly. Yeah, she said she works during the day. So many people work during the day. So they're like, how am I going to get, different opportunities? Is podcasting. I saw her podcasting was good, but she said, I can only interview during my lunchtime. What is your recommendation for people that have a job?
You have to decide what kind of commitment level you have. So if you get a morning radio show, if I was to say, come on, I'm going to put you on Tom. I want you to talk about, what you do and give some value. I mean, are you going to say no to 8 million people after you said that this is what you want? So that may be you going in late to work. I mean, but it's a morning show, so you may not even have to be, you may be able to do it before work, but you have to determine what your commitment is. I know, for an example, because I was in like an accidental interview on Tom. And Aprille has been on Tom. And, we know what 8 million people can do when you say the right thing and you connect with the right people, what that can do for your business. I mean, even if you get 1% of that, that's like what, 80,000 people? I mean, that's a lot of people coming to your website to see what you have to do. So yeah, take a vacation day. Thank you, Rosalind. Save your PTO days. Take a vacation day. There's so many things that you can do, but if you really want to play with the big boys, then you have to decide what your commitment level is. But I will say this, because I think everybody decides that they want to go straight to CNN or they want to go straight to Oprah. And Aprille makes a good point. I mean, as long as you're talking to your ideal client, podcasts work really well. Magazines work really well. And a lot of, outlets, especially online, will pre-record and work with your schedule. So, I mean, there are a lot of options, but like I said, if you want 8 million listeners, like traditional radio, media, television, then you're going to have to decide what your commitment is and make it work.
Nick, Rayshawn says, how crucial on a scale from 1 to 5 is social proof as a producer?
It's a 5, especially if you're not known. And it's a 5 for Beyonce. So this really isn't, it's a 5. Because we even towards probably about a year before I left, we started even telling entertainers like Beyonce, like, we need you to do certain things if you want to be on the show. And that was one, promote to your audience a couple of times, share that you're about to be on tomorrow, share that you're about to be on 5 minutes before, share, afterwards, send out the interview link, because we recognize, that we have a large platform, yes, but if we add our platform to your platform, whatever that may be, then the potential of making ours larger is there. And because we were such an established, AKA old show, because we've been on the air so long, I mean, Tom's listeners were getting to be so, older. And so we were trying to get the social media, audience involved so we could, young up our audience. And so as an expert that may not necessarily be known, even if you have 2,000 followers, if you don't say anything to your followers about being on the air, you will not be asked back, period. And we would send an email to Beyonce, like, this will be considered next time you ask us for an interview. Now, we probably won't say no to Beyonce, but we want her to know we are adamant about you sharing with our audience, because we are going to promote you no matter who you are. And so you have to make sure that you share social proof. And so as a producer, I will look to see if you ever promote anything. If you've never promoted anything, it might knock you down a peg or two in getting on the air. So you have to be showing not just that you promote maybe other media experiences, but that you also talk about what you do as an expert. Like, if you say you're a financial expert, but all I see on your timeline is things about your kids, that's a problem. I mean, that's a problem. And so, and it muddies up your branding, because it's not clear who you are or what you do and what problem you solve. And that has got to be clear.
Someone asks, is podcast seen as credible, or is traditional media still king?
Traditional media is still king. Absolutely. But podcasting is very viable, and it's getting more viable. It's like asking, do you have to be published by Random House, or can you self-publish? I mean, 12 years ago, it's like people were like, self-publishing is what you did because you couldn't get a traditional deal. And now it's just a very viable choice on 2 different ways to do things. And so that's where podcasting is going as well. It's going to be, people when they first started, it was like, oh, they just couldn't get a radio job. And that's not necessarily true, but just like being able to say you're published by Random House says something, saying you've been on CNN or you've been on the Steve Harvey Morning Show or you've been on Oprah says something too. So we're still king. And so that's why it's so unfortunate that people don't really look at it and consider it. But don't say no to media that's going to reach your ideal client either. So don't say no because it's a podcast, or don't say no because it's your local NBC station because you have dreams of being on Oprah. If it's going to reach your ideal client, then it's a very viable option for you.
Very good. Nick, people are saying thank you for this information, from showing people what's behind the scenes, because people just wouldn't know. Jennifer says, do you suggest that you establish content and followers before you start to blast to the media?
I say you start working on it. I mean, I'm not going to go through 5 years of history, of your social media. So I would start talking about it today. And start engaging. I mean, I've done interviews on media outlets, and they've asked me like how many people I have on my email list. I mean, that's how intent they are about making sure that I can share the information. So you need to start putting all those things in place so that you can show that there's some way for you to get the word out. But then that's also just really good for your business. I mean, these are things that you just need to have in general if you want to operate in this space. So yes, absolutely.
Also, I'll just answer this. Jennifer said, no, Kim says she's on Facebook and Pinterest. If they check Twitter and LinkedIn, there's no content there. Will that hurt me? I mean, you give them what you want them to see. That's what they're going to be looking at.
Right. Or even if I Google you, whatever pops up is where I'm going to go. I'm not going to say, well, gee, she's not on LinkedIn, so we can't put her on. I mean, wherever you are, we want to make sure that you're engaged and you're sharing that content. So yeah, and I don't think either Aprille or I advocate that you be everywhere doing everything, because then you just be busy. You're not going to be productive.
Jennifer's asking about numbers. Is there a certain number before you move to your next point? You guys, there's so much more. So,
So for Jennifer, I mean, I don't even know if we look at numbers as much as the engagement. So I've had experts try to be on the show, and, you go to their timeline, and because I know this, and you all should know this too, so you don't do it. I'd go to their timeline and they have 100,000 followers, and I get excited. And then I'll see that they posted something 2 days ago and it's only been retweeted 3 times. So there I know that they've bought all these followers and they really don't have anybody that's engaged. So I think it's more important to me that you're actually sharing the content, and to most producers that you're actually sharing the content, you're doing what you do, and that people are engaged no matter how many followers you are. So now, like 3 followers, it's not going to be impressive. So I would just, keep trying to build, but I'm not going to say you have to have 10,000. I'm not going to even say you have to have 5,000.
Yeah.
You just have to have a platform that's engaged, and that, that you're sharing that information.
And just to jump in, I mean, think about people that have been on the media that you're like, how did they even get here?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really about the content is what because remember, they want you. Are you a viable source? And are you saying something that's going to help their listeners, their readers, their viewers?
Right.
That's the point. We get caught up in this world about numbers and da-da-da-da. No, are you saying the right things to their people? And whatever you told them when they Googled you and whatever comes up, is it what you said you do? And that's that control part of the brand, that you're controlling it. We're going to take 2 more questions and then we're going to move on. Save your questions from this point, or put them inside the Q&A. Do not put them in the chat. Put them in the Q&A, because that way they'll stay. If you put them in the chat is so long, we're going to miss something, and we don't want to miss any of your questions. So put the questions in the Q&A. That way at the end, we can still get to them, or we can transfer these questions in the Q&A into our private Facebook group so that we can answer them via text, okay? Because there's so much more, and we don't want you to miss it, and we want to be respectful of everyone's time. So the last 2 questions we're going to take is, and it was in the chat because it's going to disappear. Bonnie asks, I'm a professional hairstylist, an author of an award-winning book about my mentor with a love for history, who loves to share encouragement throughout my historical stories. How do I establish my value?
Well, I think the first thing you have to figure out is what you're establishing value around. So if you want to be known as an author, which I'm familiar with Bonnie, so I know that when you pitched me as an author. If that's what you want to be established, if you want to be a face for the need to remember our history, then that's what you establish the value around. If what you do as a professional stylist is just kind of how you pay your bills, but that's not really what you want to be known for, then all of your content should be about you sharing your love for history and how it can better other people's lives by knowing where they've been or something like that. But you need to figure out what you want to establish the value around, and then do that. I mean, I think a lot of us have different kinds of passions, but if you want to make money doing something, people have to know that that's what you do, and not be confused whether they're going to go get their hair done by you or be able to buy a book from you. So unfortunately, if you have too much going on, and all of us have to pull back. So even with Aprille and April's like, you guys stop posting all this stuff because it's not about what you do. And it's true. You can't put out too much that's going to, move the focus away from what you want to be known. So you have to decide what you want to be known for first.
Twink says, if you're established or known in one media career and are branding another, what should you emphasize on your timeline? Googling you brings up one thing, what you're doing is another.
Well, I think Google is great because it tends to be very up to date. I mean, you're not ever going to be able to get everything about you off the media, and I don't think you should. But I think that if you're moving from one thing to another, like with me, because my career was something for so long and I was known more for motivation and entertainment and celebrity kinds of stuff. I had to start incorporating what I want to do now. And eventually you continue to incorporate until it flips. So as opposed to posting more, motivation and celebrity and, oh my gosh, did you see this? Now I'm focused on sharing about, visibility and media and how you really can, create a job, a business that you love, getting the visibility you deserve and making the money you want. So you really have to start switching the content. I mean, people are like, should I close my account? No, don't close your account. But like Aprille said earlier, I mean, you have to invest in getting a strategy that is going to move you from point A to point B. And eventually people will fall off. They signed up with you for one thing and now you're doing another, they're going to fall off, but that's fine because you want the people that are going to, pay you for what you have to offer, not just people that want to follow you because, you're who you are. So, all right, let us move on. And so we talk a lot about an electronic press kit. So for those of you, some people call it EPK, some will call it a media kit. Really what it is, it's a digital way to showcase what you do. At one point, obviously this was hard copy, but now with the internet, it really is a way that you showcase who you are and what value that you bring. Most media kits now are in a PDF format and they can be downloaded from your website or, a link provided in an email, that sort of thing. We rarely like attachments nowadays just because of the viruses and stuff. So I always say, recommend that you don't send any kind of attachments. Even if they've asked you like for your media kit or a picture, I mean, I always say, send a Dropbox link or send a link to your website. Everybody ideally should have on their website a area where all the media is, and where all of your brand assets that the media might need. So like a bio, a headshot, other media that you've done, that sort of thing. But also you should have, like I said, a media kit that you can, PDF and put it together and people will ask you for that. And it serves a lot of different things, but media is definitely one of them. So some of the things that you should have in your media kit, and this list may change depending on what you do for your business and how much you have done or you haven't done. But some very basic things that people, will leave out of their media kit that I'm always very surprised about. Contact details. And you want to provide the contact details of somebody that's going to answer the phone. So, if it's you, if you're kind of doing the media yourself or you have an assistant, if your company actually has a communications person or a PR person, anyone that, is going to be able to facilitate this interview. And like I said, answer the phone. One of my biggest pet peeves was being pitched by somebody and there being a certain amount of urgency and me not being able to reach them via email or phone. And so you really want to, if it's not you, if you're not going to answer the phone, then you really need to be have somebody that will answer the phone and be able to facilitate it. Because if I can't reach you, chances are that I won't bother with you at all, because it just shows to me that there's a certain unreliability there that I can't have if I'm booking you for an interview, because if you don't show up, that's a problem. Information about you as a person or the company, it should be like 2 to 3 paragraphs. It should not be a lot. It can read sort of like a bio, but I really like more active statements. So not, she went to Harvard, she graduated, not like that, but really I want to see who you are. I think that it's extremely important to show personality, so that I know what we're going to get when you show up. So obviously, Aprille has a certain, personality, and that, translates in everything that she does. I have a certain personality. And so I really want to be able to tell like what we're going to get. Some people will, kind of present, what they think that we want. And so we'll book them based on that. And when they get on the air, we're just like, really? It just falls very flat. And so there is no right or wrong way to be. You just know that television obviously is different than radio, which is different than print. And so for radio, you really have to, show up with a certain energy, because we can't see you. So we can only hear you. And depending on when it is, if it's a morning show and you're not a morning person, you really have to show up. But that also should be a part of your media kit, so that I can really kind of get a good gauge, or a journalist can really get a good gauge on you. A media release. should be a part of it, especially if you want to be on because of some time sensitive thing. So even if you have a conference coming up, like Spark and Hustle coming up for Aprille, even if that's coming up and you want to announce it, that's great. I mean, but we still really don't care about it. We want to know what's going to happen, what transformation the people are going to get by coming to your conference. And then 9 times out of 10, we'll announce a conference. We'll say, okay, you can register here or go get more information, whatever. So it'll be mentioned, but you really want to sell the value that's in the conference. But if there is some kind of a time sensitive thing, you do want to make sure that that's known, because, they might book you for, 2 months later, and it's not really impactful for what you're trying to do. You want to make sure that you put some images in there that journalists can use for the story, especially if it's print. But it's also important now because there's so many media outlets, probably 99% of them have some kind of a companion website. And normally they will put information on the website, based on what the interview is. Some other options that I like to see, but may not necessarily be as vital as the other ones. I like to see testimonials from customers or clients or people that you've worked with. I also like to see, media, testimony. So I've suggested to clients that, follow up with a producer via email and get them, to give their impression. It's also good just to get feedback, like what worked, what didn't work. And that's part of establishing the relationship as well. I like to see other interesting facts. So, if you happen to be, a life coach that, does something interesting, maybe you bake cakes in your spare time or something, I don't know. I just like interesting facts so that when we put together the information for Tom, he can say something that kind of personalizes the interview and sort of establishes a kinship between you and him. So for him to ask you, like, what type of cake did you bake last? I mean, it sort of establishes a friendliness and sets the interview up, to be fun and interesting. And so I always like that kind of information as well. Let's see, what else do I like? If you've any recent news coverage, I mean, certainly, put that in there. I like to see, what people have done, especially if it's radio, if I, hear it or video. I like to see it because then that kind of tells me more about your personality and how you show up. Because unfortunately, you may be a great coach, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be a great media interview. And of course, there's training that can go in, with that, and I do a lot of that because you don't want to mess up or flub on your first interview. But I really want to see how you're going to show up, because that could kind of decide whether or not you're actually going to get an interview or not. And then, if you're doing some kind of a product line, I mean, samples are always good. Just know that, it could or could not be appreciated. So I say don't waste your samples or your books on everybody. Like, I have so many books that people sent me in order to get an interview, and I never read any of them. I mean, quite frankly. I mean, I will say this. I think it's important to have a book if you're trying to really establish yourself as an expert, only because having a book says something about you that, for whatever reason, people hear that you have a book and they think, oh my gosh, you were able to put, all of this in 140 or 260 pages, however long it is. So you really must know what you're talking about. So it gives you a certain amount of credibility and prestige, but that doesn't mean the producer reads the book. So I will say that. So I always say, because I know everybody pays for these books. So just to send a book out with every interview, your book is not necessary. Some may email you back and say, please send a book. And then obviously then you want to send a book. And I always say send a hard copy, not necessarily a PDF. But, like I said, you shouldn't do that with just everybody unless they've decided that they want it. And then we'll talk about the media list and some different things that you can do. But this is a very, very basic place to start that I have found that a lot of people who go after media have not done. So you really need to focus on the media kit aspect of it. I got water. I'm gonna take water. Go ahead.
So there's been a couple of questions. I've been answering some, and I do have a couple of questions about the media kit. When you say media kit, what do you mean? What's the format for the media kit?
So, I mean, it can come in different formats. I mean, a lot of it in Speaker Kit, they kind of do the same thing, just with different things. Yeah. So sometimes it could be the same kit and you kind of just tweak it, just depending, like, for a Speaker Kit, you may put your speaking topics in it. For a media kit, you may put, questions that you would like to ask. Some journalists want questions, some don't. I always just say provide it, and then they can do what they want with it. But it just depends. So, you want a great picture. You want it to be visually appealing, just because we're all kind of visual creatures. You want it designed. It's not something that you really just kind of slap together. And then there's kind of a flow. I mean, you want your introduction. You want, like I said, you want to show the value right up front. And so kind of the order that I went in is what you want to do. So contact details, information about you or the company. Like I said, if there's some kind of event, you want to make sure you include a media release or information about that. Make sure you have images. Some of the last things that I look for are the testimonies, maybe from a client or customer, or the media, and then other interesting facts. But just like a press release, and like I said, we're not going to be able to go into that today because that's a whole training unto itself. You really want to put the most important information up front, because if we stop, you want to make sure we know who you are and what you do. Because I don't know if I've ever read a media kit from the front page to the last page, even though some may. But like I said, I mean, we're kind of in one of those fast food societies where we just want to know what we want to know. So make sure that you expose who you are and what you do and the value that you're going to bring right up front.
Last question before you move on is, I think it's Akua, asks, once you're exposed to the masses, is timing a thing to be considered when you're introducing something innovative due to copycats early in your business development, or should you wait when you're more established?
Well, I don't think that you really should do a media interview about something that's not developed and ready to go. I think that could be, kind of bad for your business because, I mean, and even we've seen it on Shark Tank where people have gotten on TV and they've had something and, then they get like 1 million people wanting it and they're not ready for that. So I think you should be at a point in your business where you're ready to handle what media is going to bring. Unfortunately, you're always going to have copycats. And so if you don't want to be copied, then you have to sit in your house and not do anything. There's always going to be somebody who sees what you do and then they're going to want to try to do it. But the great thing is that they can't do it the way you can do it. And so people are always going to need what you have, no matter who else is doing it in the marketplace. And we've learned that. I mean, you can, if that was the case, we'd only have McDonald's and we wouldn't have Burger King, or we'd only have Nike and we wouldn't have Adidas. People can be in your space, but if it's something that's that innovative that, then you need to start looking at copywriting, trademarking, that sort of thing before you even talk about it so that you can pursue some kind of action should somebody take it. But unfortunately, people will always try to do what you do because you do it so amazingly, but they can't do it like you. So you'll have to kind of get that out of your mind.
Let's do one more. Someone is asking, can you email the media kit checklist you mentioned? Do you have a general media kit that you can add to it? Do you change it based on the event you're pitching? Barbara.
So I just kind of gave you the template like Aprille said earlier. So you've got that. I can send out a media kit when I send out the replay so you all can see what one looks like, what a designed one looks like. So yeah, and you can change it. I mean, there's certain sections that you can tweak, just like a press release. I mean, some general information is going to stay the same, like who you are and that. But if it's a new book, obviously you want to change it so it's not still talking about the old book. Or if it's a conference coming up, you can change that part of it. But you still should have some some sections that will stay the same. So yeah, so you can tweak it based on what you're doing.
When promoting events for the media, how long is too long? How far in advance should people do it?
I think it depends on what you're doing. I mean, I think that I would have a whole plan, a whole strategy because of who you are and what you do, normally the panel is an extension of that. So I would always be looking for media opportunities. I just did an interview with Sarah Jakes Roberts, and she's doing a conference in June. And so even though we weren't really going to talk, it wasn't the focus of the conference. I was talking about what she talks about in her book. But because, that's an extension of what she does, it was relevant. And so she was like, do you mind if I mention it? And I was like, no. And then she emailed me back and said it was great for registration. So depending on how far in advance, but the focus is not the conference. So remember that, keep that in your mind. We're not focusing on the conference. That's just a byproduct of what you're doing. So I'm sure that they will mention it, but you should never open with can we talk about my conference? Or I have a conference coming up. You want to expose the value that you offer to the journalist, and then the book, the conference, the company, all of that will get mentioned, but it's not the focus of the interview.
Let me jump in here.
Yes, ma'am. Conference.
Yeah, I just want to say that I need everyone to get in your head right now. No, they do not care what you're offering to sell. Let it go. They don't care. That's not you care. They don't. So really get clear with your intention now when you're pitching the media. The byproduct is more credibility, more exposure, which exposes people to, oh my God, who was that girl that gave those great tips on, the Today Show or on Tom Joyner or on whatever. They don't care unless they ask. If they ask, then it's like, hey, can you tell people about your book? Then do it. But if they don't, please know this is not if you want to advertise, then pay for advertising. If you want media is about the value. It's about you filling in a spot in the segment so that they can give their audience something that you are an expert at. So just keep that in mind. Let that go. Remember, I don't know if we said this here. This is not a one night stand. This is a marriage.
Right.
So we in this thing. So the one night stand, they care about all kind of stuff that the marriage, we in this thing for the long haul. So just kind of keep that in mind. It's they don't care about what you got going on. But if they ask, and then the thing about it is, don't be that person. Don't be so hungry and like amateurish. They can sense that.
No, and I will tell you, we had one person that did an interview and he was an expert and he was phenomenal. I actually knew him personally, so it was awkward. But I tell everybody, like, we will, Tom will get in the name of your book. Let Tom handle that. And every question Tom asked, the guy said, well, because I just published my book, you can read it there. As soon as that interview was over, the show was not even done. Tom said, you call him and tell him he will never do an interview with me again. And so I had to call this guy that I knew and tell him, that was so awful that you will never. And not only will you never do an interview with Tom, people will hear that. Like, we all know each other. So like Steve Harvey's producer, Kim, can call me and say, this guy just pitched me. I heard he was on Tom. What happened? And I'm going to tell her, because she's not going to call me back and say, this guy was awful and you didn't tell me. And I put him on the air. So not only will you screw up with one show or outlet, you may, kind of ruin it for yourself with others. And because the way things stay around and we Google and we listen, we could listen to it and say, oh, they won't be on our show.
But not only that, I was just sharing in the chat with someone, it's a revolving door. So that person that leaves that show, they're going to go work at another show. The people that are in television and radio and they stay and they go to all these different places. I mean, Nikki was on Steve too. She was on Steve's show as well before Tom Joyner. So think about that. So it's like, skirt, you could be potentially, so it's really about the relationships, everybody.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. And I can talk about that. And that is so much fun to talk about because people can really screw it up. And just not knowing who you are and who you're talking to. I had another friend, and this is just real quick. I had another friend that we put on, and he was a diet expert. And, Tom was so pro the Obamas, which a lot of us were, but Tom was just like fanatical about it. And it was very clear that he was fanatical. And my friend came on and he was talking about fitness and he had something negative to say about Michelle Obama's fitness campaign. And Tom was like, he will never be on the air again. He will not, and he never, as much as he tried to get back on Tom, he would never put it back on because he, that's just how we're all people. And so you really have to know who you're talking to. You can't just look at this, as Aprille said, like a one night stand. This is a relationship. And so you have to know what we like and what we don't like. And you can find that out easily by actually listening to the show before you go on. So yes, Leslie, do your homework before you do any interviews. All right. So that is the media kit. So sources for media connections and opportunities. And so this kind of is going to go into a little bit about the media list, but that's fine. So you really do have to think about this as let me build my relationships before I actually need them. It is really very ineffective to pitch the media a lot of times if you have no established connection with the media outlets that you are pitching. So when I was with Tom, I mean, literally some days I would get 500 pitches. And so it's very hard to distinguish even, if you have exceptional value, a lot, like 250 of those emails are not going to get open because I just don't have the time. And it's not, a negative of, are you supposed to be, I don't know, am I sharing my screen?
Oh,
No.
no. Mm.
Okay. No, you're not supposed to be seeing my screen. So, okay. I thought
I already I put the screen up like I did on mine for everyone to
yeah.
take a picture of it, and then I took it down. I'll bring it back. Continue
Oh,
to talk.
I think she just, yeah. No, we're not going to share our screens the whole time. So that's just that. And so you really want to start building your relationships. And this is so easy to do because the social media world has made things so much smaller. So you can easily find out who is the producer of a show. I was looking for a contact with the Associated Press because I had a really niche client that I was trying to do. And I Googled her and I found her on Twitter. And I started following her and I started talking to her. And then I was like, can I have your contact information? I got her contact information. So it may be a little bit easier for me because they see that I'm a journalist and I've been in media. But literally, I have had people who have done it. Like I have a little 13-year-old girl, and I call her my little, she's my little mini me now. But she has sickle cell, and she created, I guess, apparently, when you have sickle cell, there are certain foods, sugars, and flours that have a lot of the processed stuff that can trigger an episode with, if you have sickle cell. And so, she created a way to bake products because she's a kid and she wanted to enjoy, kid-like stuff, and she wanted other people to enjoy it. So she created a way to bake stuff so that they can enjoy it. And literally, she started following me on Twitter, and she's 13, so she's cute, so it's a little different. But, and she would say, "Good morning, Miss Woods," like every single day. She would say, "Good morning, Miss Woods. Good morning, Miss Woods," or she'll retweet something, or she'll answer a question. She would do this, and it was just so cute. And so eventually I started recognizing that every single day she was doing this. And then eventually, I followed her back and I would look at her timeline. And I was like, oh my gosh, this little girl is just like really amazing. And so didn't really have an opportunity, but I would start corresponding. I looked at her on Facebook. Sometimes I would comment. She would always be just so, thrilled. And then eventually, I had an opportunity for her and I put her on the air. I mean, like this little girl went and she was on the Tom Joyner Morning Show. Because if she followed me on Twitter and said good morning every single day. If she hadn't done that, I would have never known who she was or what she did. And so now she's got, not only has she been on Tom, but she's been on every single media outlet that I have participated in since. She's been on Steve Harvey. Oprah has called her. I mean, it has been amazing because she started saying good morning to a producer on Twitter. So that really is kind of like the power of social media and connections. I mean, you really can make the world a much smaller place. It's not, like before where it was really, really hard to get contact information. So I'm actually going to meld this media list part of it. So really, when you want to look to build your media list, you need to start targeting who has the audience that you're trying to reach, who reports on the kinds of things, because you can go, certain, shows don't talk about everything. Certain journalists don't cover everything. Certain magazines, they have a certain, Black Enterprise magazine is different than Ebony magazine. I mean, everybody has a focus. So you need to figure out like who is going to be able to share your information to the people that you need to get it to, and start making a list. And then start connecting, follow them on Facebook, like their stuff, comment on their stuff, really become a resource. One of the things that I tell everybody, and I think that this is just true in life. I mean, show up as a giver first. Don't just like figure out what they can do for you. Show up and figure out how you can offer help. So if you're a financial expert and you're following, like who's a good financial, Michelle Singletary, who is a financial expert with the Washington Post. If you're following her on Twitter and you see like an amazing story that you think, would be good for her to cover, just send them the story. It doesn't have to be about you. Send them the story. And 9 times out of 10, if she decides to do the story, she's going to come back to you as a source and figure out that you talk about this too and can be an expert. So start thinking of how you can be a resource. All media isn't good media, and media really is about having a system. So I'll tell you, so I decided, and I don't even know if I told Aprille this, but I decided I was going to do a big media Rolodex promotion for the beginning of the year. And that I was for the first time ever going to share my contacts for the media. And so it took us 2 months to go through my media contacts. And at the end of the day, I had 600,000 media contacts. And I ended up releasing 10,000 of those. And everybody was like, oh my God, I'm getting 10,000 media contacts. Yeah. But you can't use 10,000 media contacts. You just can't. And so you really have to have a system for how you can figure out who is best going to be able to convey the information that you have to the people who need it. So you really only need, I would say, to start with 10 to 20 good media contacts and really start developing those relationships. So, people were like, aren't you scared that you're giving away 10,000 contacts? I'm like, no, because they haven't developed a relationship. They can start, but they don't already have the relationship. And I don't believe that, because so much is needed. I mean, I don't believe that, people being able to develop a relationship is going to take anything away from me or whatever I'm doing. But you have to work on that relationship, and you have to do it before you actually need the story. Because then what happens is that if you retweet everything I say, or you retweet a lot of things, I'm going to start remembering your name. So even if it doesn't happen like it did for Nazi, who is the baker, the 13-year-old baker, when you email me, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that name sounds familiar. I think, I saw it somewhere, but I'll be more interested in opening up the contact. So you really have got to focus on becoming a resource and really becoming of value in order to really, really start to develop. Because like Aprille said, we want it to be a relationship. There are other ways that you can find media opportunities. So I'm not sure if you're familiar or not with Help a Reporter Out. And that is a great resource for, for matching up experts with content to people who are looking for it. And so Help a Reporter Out is just online. You can create a free profile, and, they will send you stories that reporters need. And if you fit it, or you can, you can speak to it, you can email them back and possibly get an interview. There are certain wire services, e-releases, I think .com is one of them, where you can upload your press release to a wire service. And this is when you really need to learn how to write a great press release. But you can upload it to it, and it automatically goes out to a gazillion media outlets. And so that's always just a really good practice, because I've had clients where I've sent out their press release through some of my services, and we'll be, one was in Detroit, and somebody in Omaha wrote a story about her, just because there are a lot of, especially print outlets like newspapers or websites, where they just look for content, and they won't even call you. They'll just write an article based on your press release. So there's all sorts of ways to get your information out there. But the most effective is really building a killer media list. And so that is really, really a good place to start.
So Laura says that she booked NBC from Haro, and she's using Haro. I also use Haro. That Good Housekeeping came from Haro. Mm-hmm. And Haro is an awesome opportunity for you to get the media landing in your inbox. I mean, literally, you don't even, there's with the list that Nikki's teaching you, those are definitely your wish list, those people that you want to build relationships with. And then another part of your strategy, then you can have Haro, and there's other services that are similar. There's one other as well that you can, there's a couple other as well that you can have come drop in your inbox, but it's very much a strategy. It can be very overwhelming. Mm-hmm. Because they send out queries. At least probably 100 queries a day, 3 times a day. So, but know that it's a great strategy to use. Great strategy to use.
I just put 2 more. Pitch Rate is one, and Source Bottle is one. That they operate the same way as Haro, but you can really narrow it down. So if you're in business, you don't want to just sign up for the whole, list, because then you're gonna get lifestyle and travel. They send you everything. So if you're a business expert and you're looking for a business type focused things, then you just want to sign up for business. If you're travel and you want to write articles or be featured as a travel expert, then just sign up for travel, because they send you a lot. But it really is a great way. I've had, people that I've coached, sign up and right away they're getting media opportunities. So it's really very cool. So the other thing that you kind of want to learn after, you've kind of started building those relationships, this is one of the most important things to kind of get when you're talking about interviewing, not for print, but this is for radio and television. You really want to learn how to speak in sound bites. And it's crucial for your messaging, because, sometimes your interview could be 3 minutes. It could be 5 minutes. Podcasts, you kind of get to stretch out, they could be 30, they could be an hour, but radio and television can be extremely quick. And so if you don't know what you want to say or how you want to say it, you could really miss a golden opportunity to drive your message home. And once again, this is not about selling. This is just about, I always tell people now, think in tweets. This is really about something very impactful that you can say that speaks to the value that you provide. So one of the most memorable ones, and I don't know why, I mean, it's great, but I just don't know why this one has stuck with me for as long as it had. But we had a financial expert on, and I want to say it was Deborah Owens, but I'm not completely 100% sure. But she said that as women, we should never own a purse that is more expensive than what we have in it. And it just, everybody went crazy. I remember that people would call up and they were like, we want to talk to that lady who said that you should never have a purse. It's more, they didn't even remember her name. See, I don't even remember her name, but I remember what she said. And so you really want to have moments like that where people can, they'll tweet it because it's just so good. And it really just says, because she was a financial expert that really worked with women who were, still at that paycheck to paycheck kind of stage and how to maximize their money. And so she spoke directly to her audience, the people who are still struggling, but they kind of want to appear like they're not. So they buy a really expensive purse, but then they don't have anything in it. And so it just was so, so impactful. And so you have to come up with stuff like that. And that takes practice. Like, that's not just something that a lot of us, unless you're like Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson, it used to rhyme. And whenever you talk, you have to work on that and develop that, and you can. But you really have got to learn to make the most of it. I always tell people that your mom told you that too. I always tell people that you should have at least 3 key messages for your interview. And that's what you want people to walk away with. And those key messages should be centered around the value that you want to show, that tells people who you are and what you do. So like I said, it's not about selling. It's not about, a key message that says, go to my website so you can purchase a service. This is about value. So for me, one of my key messages whenever I talk about anything is how visibility and how important visibility is to, people in general. It's like, even if you're not an entrepreneur, an author, speaker, even if I'm speaking about women's empowerment, my thing is that everybody wants to be seen and heard. Everybody wants to feel like they're seen and heard. And that goes directly back to visibility. So I'll always have that as one of my key messages. I might deliver it differently. The soundbite might be different depending on who the interview is, but that's always one of my key messages. And so you really have to be able to narrow your focus, and know the difference between the different media outlets, so that you can make sure that you're doing that. Even in print, you should be able to get a good soundbite in. But of course, with print, most of the time you have time to think about it. Maybe they'll send you the questions, you type them out, you send it back. But in media and, radio and television, you really have to be able to think. And so really starting with your key messages, what points do you want to get across? What's important that you leave the value with the audience, and then kind of craft those in a way that are organic to you. I can't get that out on Saturday morning. That are organic to you, but also, that people can remember and walk away with. So sound bites are really, really, really important. And like I said, sometimes they rhyme. Sometimes you can use an analogy. There's different things that you can do. There are about 10 different ways that you can create a good sound bite. But at the end of the day, you just need to make sure that it is impactful. And part of that is also it being a part of your personality. So, Aprille and I may have the same key message, but, because we're 2 different people, we deliver it in 2 different ways. And so you just want to be cognizant that they're also true to your personality.
Just to jump in, Twink says relevant metaphors were great for sound bites. And
yeah, so especially if you're talking about something that most people aren't familiar with. So, I've worked with a lot of physicians and doctors who say things in a way that I don't even understand. And one thing we all have to realize is that most times our audience, could be operating on different levels. So when I advise clients, I'm always, saying, think 5th grade level, think 6th grade level. You want to break it down, to that, so that people really can grasp. Because sometimes it's not even that they're on the 5th grade level, but if they're driving, if they're trying to get their kids ready for school, they're not paying attention. So you want it to be as easy as possible for them to understand. So with the physicians, we had to do a lot of metaphors. Because, if you're talking about how to cure cancer using lasers and what, how that attacks different things, it just boggles your mind. And so, one doctor that I worked with, used Star Wars, and they really put it down. So, so you really want to be able to break it down, because if people can't understand what you're saying, then they can't make a decision whether or not they can deal with you on any kind of a level. And usually they just kind of shut you out. So it doesn't make an impact at all.
All right. Let me get to a couple of the chat questions so we can move forward. We're already noticing we're going to go over, so please make a notation of the time. We are about an hour and 42 minutes in. I'm just making sure that people are aware, in case you have things to do, that the recording will be made available to you, so you'll have it. So if you need to fast forward to this point of the training, then you can absolutely do that. Nikki, Akua asks, are there any cautions to getting exposure?
No, I mean, I think there's a few cautions. I mean, I think exposure brings eyes on you. And so I think that, unfortunately, you know, sometimes that's negative and positive, but I think that if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, you know, there's always going to be people that don't like what you say. There's always going to be people that don't like how you look. There's always going to be people that have something negative to say. But that just really means you're doing something. I mean, if you don't have anybody saying anything positive or negative, it's because you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
The other thing that I caution people that exposure brings is just you being ready as an entrepreneur. So if you're giving out your website, you know, make sure that your bandwidth is there to support that. I mean, we've shut many a website down on the Tom Joyner Morning Show because they're just not prepared for the traffic. If you have something to sell on your website and you give out your website and people go there and then, you know, maybe you don't have enough product. And like I said, this is a big issue with Shark Tank people because they're not prepared for the overwhelm that comes. I mean, you want to put some very basic things in place as far as a system just to be able to handle that. So definitely.
Rosalind asks, what email subject lines inspire you to open emails?
Clear value. So if you're a financial expert and you're going to share with my people, you know, 3 ways that they can get more money back, you know, when they file their taxes, that's clear value.
Should it be all caps? Should they have stars and stripes in it?
No, just show the value. I mean, make it short, make this a soundbite too. So, you know, Nikki Woods, whatever, you know, let me show your listeners 3 ways to make more money. You know, just make it very clear what you're going to talk about and then continue with that in the email. So once I open it, I don't want to see, I wrote a book that's going to help your listeners make more money. Like, I don't want to see that. I want to open it up and you share the 3 and give concrete ways. So I'm going to, you know, not necessarily tell me exactly all those ways, but I have 3 ways that I can, you know, give your listeners that are going to help them make more money starting tomorrow. I mean, that's value that I know my listeners are going to want. And, you know, and make sure that they're real, be able to back it up. Don't tell me that you're going to show them how to make $1 million in 30 days or whatever, you know, and you not be able to support that information because I am going to do my research. But you show clear value in the opening. Now, if we've had like some interaction, then it helps probably to say that. So if I just met you at a conference and we had a conversation about how both of our mothers are Jamaican, put that in the subject line because then I'm going to remember that and that's going to trigger something. But if we haven't had any kind of a contact, you need to show me the clear value so that I'll open it.
And then also just to add, like when I meet people in certain environments, I always take a picture with the person. So once I do get to them, I always send a picture with me and the person. I'm like the picture queen. I'm going to take a picture. I will text the picture and I will, when I send the email, I'll be like, oh, look at us, or tweet it or whatever. So it's just a visual because when people are out, when you do get into those environments and once you start elevating in the brand, people start to forget. I mean, you meet so many different individuals and so I'm always doing that. And then I'm really quirky too. So I'll say things like, I was the mocha chick with the afro that day, you know, or whatever. I was the girl with the red dress, you know, so that they can, you know, really remember you when you're in these different types of environments, even if you flip it and you become the media. So I know some of you all are podcasting and you have radio shows and stuff like that. I do the same thing all the way around. So.
Now, and that's just great basic networking. And if, like you said, if Aprille says, you know, if you meet us out and you take a picture, definitely tweet that and tag us. But also don't like take forever to follow up. So if I meet you on a Friday and you haven't reached out by Monday, then chances are I'm not going to remember who you are. So I learned that at a very basic networking level. If you're interested in building a relationship with them, no matter how they operate, then you need to email them within 2 days so that you can, you know, remind them of that and start to build that relationship.
All right, couple questions. Dominique, is it 3 key messages per interview or is it 3 different types of interview messages?
No, 3 key messages per interview.
All right.
per interview, and that could change depending on, who you're interviewing with or what it's about. But I say 3 good ones for interview.
Is it safe to say that you should think of the media as a larger scale of live stream or a freebie?
I don't understand what that means.
This Dominique? She says, is it safe to say that you should think of the media as a larger scale of live stream or freebie content first and only?
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah, that's the value. I mean, you want to provide that content. So yeah, absolutely.
Next question, Jackie. I have a few things that I want to focus. Do the men not have any questions? Where y'all at? Where are the men? Are we just clear? Or are the men like, listen, they got it. We just gonna sit. We just gonna sit here. No. Oh, Dominic says in reference to a call to action. So sometimes you never get there. Sometimes there is no call to action. Remember, this is not a sale, so you may not get to mention your book.
No, but you should have a call to action ready. So, but that's not buy my service. The call to action is, so even when we had Aprille on, Tom, I mean, remember your website shut down. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. And so we had to create a landing page, and I was like, just put together a PDF, and you can say, go to my website and download my PDF. That's perfectly acceptable. Or even just to have a pop-up offer, so when they do go to your website, there's a chance to get them into on your email list or connect with them in some way. So you really should have a call to action ready, but it should not be a call to action to buy something or to attend something. It really should be just to extend another offer of more value.
Yes. And I just wanted to ask this question. If you have received your $28 or your $500 or whatever you paid for this, please type in a number 1 in the chat box. If this is good for your business media soul, please type in a number 1 so we know. And if you, as you can see, we're answering all your questions. So make sure you keep them coming inside of the chat. Our goal here is to provide value to you on both sides. And we have never done this before, so we didn't know how long it was going to take, whether it was going to take us 2 hours or 3. As you can see, it's probably going to take us 3 hours, but we want to make sure that we're delivering the value that you want so that you can intelligently start to actually go and implement the media element. So I just want to make sure that I say that, and thank you very much, everyone, for sharing that the content is amazing. Yes, yes, and yes. Twink is asking, is it good to include video links with a pitch of a clip or a talk? The answer is yes.
Yes and no. I mean, I think that, the biggest thing is to let them know what value. And I think if the media is interested, they'll ask you for more information. So, I mean, either or. I think providing as much as you can be a good thing, but I know that there are some journalists that want to say yes before you start sending them all sorts of links. And it's kind of like a purchasing decision sometimes, because we look at so many different emails. Like I said, usually just getting to the point so that they can make a decision on whether or not this is right for their audience, and then sending them what they asked for is really a really good way to go. So if you I would say links if you've already established a relationship, so you can show them what they're talking about and they're already kind of familiar with you. But really, you just kind of want to get to the point.
Okay, very good. And then Tom, hey Tom, thanks Tom for standing up and saying something and giving us a little testosterone. He says he got the $2,300 he paid for it, smiley face. So absolutely awesome. Well, the idea here is, once you have this information, this is why I love education and we love teaching, is because you can keep this and duplicate it and make this a part of your I call it I go on these media blitzes. So I'm not always pitching myself. I'll spend a week and I'll blitz and I'll send out a bunch of pitches, and then I won't send any for 6 months. Or I'll do that once a quarter and I'll get, for 2 weeks, just pitching. And then whatever I get, I work and leverage that. And then I may do it again, I just want to add in, you may have your periods where you are, because you're working your business, and some of you all may not have a staff. And so it gets hard to manage making the money and doing the media. So you may say, okay, on the 1st of the month or the 1st and the 15th or the 20th of every month, that's my media day. Or you may say once a week, I'm going to check it. That's going to be my media day where I'm going to send out pitches. But make sure you have some sort of plan now, so this doesn't just go to the wayside. So make sure you have some sort of in your mind how you want to do this so that you can actually implement it. Let me check for questions real quick, Nick, and then back to you.
Yes, ma'am. I have, Tom. I have your business card sitting right here by my computer. That's funny. I just met Tom in Houston 2 weeks ago.
Love it. Jackie says, oh, wait, Jackie. Jackie said I started to answer her question. Also, Jackie said, I have a few things that I want to focus on as a business, but I can't seem to narrow it down. I'm going to get back to that. Twink, is it a good? Okay, I answered that. Barbara says, this is great. Kimberly says, this webinar is high quality. I have things to take action on today. We love that. Jackie, I will get back to you, I promise. Rosalind, thank you. Someone anonymous says, why are you anonymous? We want to know.
Yeah, first. First,
we told you our names. Anonymous says, I genuinely connected with a journalist and they invited me to lunch. I was told to tell them about my upcoming event, but I didn't because I appreciate their sincerity and wanting to know me. Am I wrong, or is it okay to share maybe when we have lunch, even if it's a week before my event? Well, if they asked, you should have told them.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was going to say, if they ask you, tell them.
Because I think people in the media, I know. It's just like in what we do. You don't always want to feel like people just want to be like, we know, like, I know if you asking me to lunch, you don't want to ask me something about your business and how to make money. I know that. But if you do go to lunch with me and you don't ask me anything, I'm going to love you. Mm-hmm. And then the next time you come to me, or I may be thinking of something, I'll be like, oh yeah, let me send something to Anonymous. I'll be thinking that every single time, because it's really awesome to have someone that just genuinely wants to know you. And then I need to tell this quick story. When I met Nikki Woods, I actually comped her a VIP day. I comped her a VIP day because I wanted to get to know her. And I knew that people use people in the media. They pretend to want to be your friend. They pretend to want to build a connection. They pretend because they know that you have something of value. Mm-hmm. And you got to be the person that's not like everybody else. And I don't know, me and Nikki, I don't even know if we ever talked about it, because she then hired me after that. And then now I said, she coaches me, I coach her. Now we work together and we do things together. But Nikki, can you speak to that just for everyone, like just the taking advantage of, the always on the take, just as Anonymous is asking this question, I think it's a good segue into that.
No, but it goes back to the relationship building and being a giver first. I mean, there are people that, I would not have thought about twice, but then they did something. And I don't mean that in a callous way, but just, they came, they did their job, and then, it was kind of over. But they did something, they went one step behind that made me think, and Lucinda Cross is a good example about this, in addition to you. Yeah, I love Lucinda too. And Lucinda, I didn't even book Lucinda. Jackie booked Lucinda to be on the show. And like 3 days later, I got this beautiful journal and handwritten note from Lucinda just thanking us for allowing her the opportunity. And literally, and I get chills just thinking about it, because literally I welled up. Because people will do an interview and then you won't hear from them again until they want another interview. And I get it. Like, I understand, like, that's just kind of the nature of the beast or whatever. And I don't feel any kind of way about that. But then when you get somebody that goes the extra step and, like Aprille said, really wants to get to know you and really recognizes what you have just done for them as a part of extending your platform, it really makes a difference. And even now, usually when I do an interview, whether it's a podcast or not, I will send a gift, because it just means so much to me that somebody opened up their platform and I realized how much it touched me. And so it just, it just is about that relationship. And then from that day on, if anything ever came up in Lucinda's lane, I was calling her. She didn't even have to call me. I was calling her, because I just appreciated her appreciating us, I guess, to really put it quite, frankly. And then, like now we're friends. Like, she had me speak at her conference. I've done different workshops with her. And just like Aprille, we've been able to develop a relationship. And that's not going to happen with everybody, because you just don't have enough time in life to do that. But you should show some appreciation and not, like I said, just look for the interview and really develop it. And sometimes I've even had people ask me to go out to lunch, just like with Aprille, and I've been prepared, like, for the pitch.
Girl, me too. I be prepared. I'm like, you ain't got no questions.
Like, we've had that appetizer, we're off. When is it going to come? And I'm always pleasantly surprised when somebody says, I just want to kind of get to know you so that I can provide you or help you find the stuff that you need. And that I was like, somebody got trained. Somebody had some really good training, and they know to be that resource and not just let me have this interview.
Because it's a marriage.
It's a marriage, and it really is. And then just like when then you think about me, then I will think about you too. You're the email that's going to get open. It's not favoritism. It's just human nature.
Yeah.
When I see your name, I'm like, oh. So whenever now I see Nazi's name on Twitter, I want to comment, and it's kind of blown her up a little bit because she's gotten all this media. So it's like a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I think about her when I think of great human interest stories that somebody might need, and I'm pitching her, and it just really, really works. And so, when somebody offers to put you in front of 8 million people, I mean, damn it, you should be appreciative of that. And you should, if the very least, send a thank you. There'd be people who do interviews and I never hear from them until they get an interview. Send a thank you note, ask for feedback, see if there was anything that you could do different, or if there's something further you can do, maybe write an article for the website just to be a companion, make somebody's life easier.
Yeah. Because after you, they're looking for the next thing, because there's another segment.
So, I was always looking for content. I was always looking for ideas. There's some times where I'm looking, during the holidays, when it's slow or when Tom's on vacation and we have extra time to fill because he's gone. I'm constantly looking. So for somebody to send me a fabulous pitch that says, I'm going to help your listeners get their love life together, or help them get their money right, or teach them how to build a business, I'm like, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. But you have to set it up right. You can't just say, I want to be on your show so I can talk about my book, because that doesn't do anything for me.
Nothing. Kimberly says, you two are a dynamic duo. This is amazing collaboration. Thank you for sharing this with your connections on LinkedIn, Nikki.
Yeah, welcome,
inside of, and some of this we've covered. So if you're just jumping in, I know some of you guys jumped in late. We covered it, so we're not going to go over it again for the sake of time. We're already going to go over. We're already over.
Yeah, okay.
But we're going to get to all of your questions. Please note that to ask your questions inside the Q&A, because what doesn't get answered live, we're going to transfer these into the group where they will get answered. So please note that none of your questions will go unanswered. Okay, you'll have access to us for, I don't know how long we're going to keep the group, maybe a week, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, that would be good.
Okay, and so we'll answer your questions there. And some of you are going to move on to the Rock Your PR program with Nikki. And so you'll have even more opportunities to really build this out. So I
put the Facebook group in the chat. So if you guys have not joined that, you might want to go ahead and join so that you can see the rest of the questions.
Okay. So Nikki, you want to keep moving? Because I want to get to the money.
Okay. So this is really, and we've talked a lot about this. So we've really kind of covered how to create a media list that pays, because creating a media list involves a relationship building. And I showed you kind of how to target who you want and that. So we really have talked a lot about that. The last thing that I really want to talk about to round this off, and we talked a little bit about this too, and Aprille mentioned it. The great thing about getting media is that it leads to more media. So this is not like a one-off thing where you get an interview and then it's done and you kind of just let it sit. You can constantly use this to market yourself, not just to the media, but to, potential clients. When you get an interview, it just says a little bit something about you. It gives you a little extra credibility, sometimes a lot of extra credibility, depending on the media outlet, and that sets you apart from maybe a competitor in your lane. So you always want to use this. Whenever I get an interview, I always repurpose it. I'll put it up on YouTube. I'll create a video if it's just audio, or I'll take snippets from a print and I'll, tweet them out every once in a while. But this really shows social proof that you have been tried and tested in the media. And that's why you're always seeing on people's websites, or when you see their picture, as seen on CNN or Black Enterprise or Tom Joyner or Steve Harvey or Oprah, because it says something to the people. So you don't want to just get an interview. I don't care what interview it is. I don't care if it's just a podcast or if it's a blog talk rate. I don't care what it is. You can always repurpose that to continue to provide social proof. Not that you're just out there talking about it and people see you as an expert and it gives you that credibility. But it also says to the media, that this is what you do. This is who you are, and that other people have said yes to you. So it makes it easier for other journalists to say yes. So you want to constantly leverage that. I have clients, if they get media, send it out to your current client base so that they can see you're out there flexing in the media. It just says something about you, and it gives you that, that extra credibility that could kind of push you to be able to raise your rates, to find more clients, to partner as a joint venture, to get a sponsor. I mean, it says a lot to a lot of people. So you really want to make sure that it doesn't just die with the interview, that you continue to leverage it to build more of what you're seeking. And like I said, and it just directly impacts your money. And so you want to make sure that you're showcasing it as much as possible.
Nikki, people are asking, how do they hire us?
I'm just glad I got through my part.
People are asking, how do you hire us? I want to post our websites down. Okay. You can reach out to us inside the group. Just reach out to us if you're interested in a one-on-one. We'll post the details there. Yeah. So thank you for that. There were several people that had that question. Absolutely. Okay. Did you say anything about media calendars? Can you just touch on that before we go?
Oh, no. Yeah, that's great. So and actually in the document that I sent out that you all should have gotten probably today or yesterday, there is an example of a media calendar. And so there are opportunities throughout the year that we know are going to happen every single year that should be on your calendar to pitch. So, like Valentine's Day, tax season, summer, school starting, Christmas, Thanksgiving, all of these things happen every single year. And you should be looking to pitch yourself, and you should be looking for unique angles. So for an example, I have a client who is, she's a human resource expert, and she hired me when the Harvey Weinstein thing happened because she wanted to talk about, relationships in the workplace and sexual harassment and that sort of thing. And then because, I got so much media for her, she was like, I want to keep you. So like I work with her, on an ongoing basis now. And so I'm always looking for opportunities to pitch her. And so there are really 3 times that you should have on your calendar that you kind of look to pitch. And so those are those evergreen times. So even for Valentine's Day, one of the ways that I pitched her was to talk about work spouses. And is it appropriate, or, is it helpful, and what happens if it goes wrong? And so she got a lot of interviews based on that, because people were looking for Valentine's Day content that was not the usual Valentine's Day content. And so you should always look for those evergreen opportunities. You should also look for, months or days that are in relationship to you. So, if you are a woman and you're not pitching for Women's History Month, or you don't talk about female-centered topics, then you're missing some real opportunities. International Women's Day, I think, is March 8th. So that's another opportunity to pitch. There's Sickle Cell Anemia Month. So if that's something you focus on, you should always be pitching on that. If you're an education expert, you should be pitching going into summer, ways to help your kids stay, focused, even though it's the summer. You should be helping them get ready to go back to school. I mean, there's a National Education Month. You should be pitching. So there are all sorts of opportunities. But then the last way that you should be pitching is based on a news story. And that's how Natasha first came to me. Harvey Weinstein, had just popped, and I shouldn't say that word, but sexual harassment was like the topic of the day. And so she wanted to get media by piggybacking on that news story. You should always look for news stories as well, not to talk about your product or your service, but to showcase your expertise around, something like that. And so, that's how we started working together. I saw a great pitch. I need to take notes on what I'm going to send, but I'll actually send.
I have it.
Okay, good. I saw a media pitch, and I pitched it in, put it in all of my coaching groups. So people could say, because it was so perfect. But it was a former nanny, and now she's a nanny expert. And I guess the story was Kylie Kardashian getting a nanny, and whatever, there was so much buzz about it. And she immediately sent out a pitch, talking about how she could speak on this topic. And it was just such a perfect illustration of how you can present yourself, even though, people really want Kylie, but not everybody's going to get Kylie. So they want somebody else on to explain that. And it was such a perfect pitch that, like I said, I sent it out, I posted in my coaching groups and sent it to some people that I coach one-on-one with, so that they could get it. Yeah, Aprille Sharon wrote it down, so I'm going to send it out so that you can see that when I send out the recap email.
Yes.
Because it was just perfect. So those are 3 things that you should always be looking to do. But with your media calendar, you can build out, so now if you didn't pitch for Valentine's Day, next Valentine's Day, to start working on your pitches. And like I said, it's not just for relationship experts, because that's what the holiday is. But like I pitched a human resources person, I pitched a financial expert to break down like how much should you actually be paying for Valentine's Day, spending, those sorts of things. So pitching is like something that I love, and I'm really, really creative with it. So you have to get creative with it as well and think outside the box. I actually saw last Christmas, I was surfing Facebook, and there were 5 reporters on their Facebook fan page saying, send me stories because we have no content. So you should always be thinking about those holidays where things start to slow down, like Christmas and Thanksgiving. And I mean, there's only so many stories you can do about turkey. So start thinking about one of the stories that I booked around the holidays was like holiday depression, like the people who don't have anybody. Like, how do you combat that? What do you do? And so, I was looking for different kinds of stories as opposed to like what you should be serving for Thanksgiving dinner. What do you do I actually had Lamar on, Aprille, Lamar Tyler, talk about what do you do as a blended family during the holidays? Like, how do you manage that piece of it? So we're always looking for different kinds of stories and different people that can showcase it. So you should have evergreen holidays. You should look for certain months or days or weeks that speak to you and your expertise. And you should always be looking at the news. So if a news story comes up that you can provide some kind of an expert opinion on, to do that. And the last thing I'll say about this is that, we don't always like the same opinion. So if you hear somebody on the air and or see them on the television or read in the newspaper that they have a certain opinion about whether or not you should homeschool your children, and you as an education expert think that no, you should absolutely not homeschool your children, they should be in the the public school, whatever, then submit that, because there's nothing the media likes more than controversy. And if you can provide a differing opinion and really back it up, not just not just disagree to be disagreeable, as my dad says, but if you can really provide a differing opinion and back it up, then present that, because we like to have that conversation. We like sometimes that controversy that it can spark, and we like to educate, entertain, and inform our listeners, but we also like that conversation.
All right. Barbara wants to know, are you going to the BE conference in March in Orlando, Nick? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not going, but Nikki is. So you'll see her there. Okay, we just went through all the Q&A questions in the chat, and I wanted to add one thing before I go into the money part. Has this been awesome or what? Yes. Did y'all get y'all's $2,300 worth that Tom spent?
Tom spent for everybody.
Yes. All right, so I wanted to add because someone was asking in chat about social media and how social media ties into your overall media. So someone said y'all need a show on CNBC. Speaking of CNBC actually called me, and that's what I was getting ready to say, actually. And from a LinkedIn post, the casting director for so a lot of these networks, it's so deep. It's so deep. And I can't get into it, and neither can Nikki, but some of you all that are going to move into Rock Your Own PR will get into it. But these companies there's companies that just do casting. And so the casting company for CNBC contacted me and I don't even know if I told you this, Nikki, but they're casting me for the interview. Mm-hmm. So the interview is a reality-based show that they are looking for people that own companies who are looking to increase their staff. But the less about the show, more about the fact that they put that on LinkedIn. The casting director is on LinkedIn. Okay. Posted the pitch. We responded, and she called the office like within an hour. Yeah. So literally, when we tell you about the social media, this is real. Like the social media and the media is coming to social media to source, because we're sources for sources. Right. We are a source of information. Right. We are a source of information. So that's just to let you know right there that, you guys see me. I mean, and they was in love with me. Okay. Cause y'all already know. I told that girl, I said, girl, you're going to give me a show. Just wait. But literally, so it really does happen. So, Nikki did an amazing job teaching you guys on the media, on what to do, what to say, when to pitch, who to talk to. Keep in mind, you have this content to go back and rewind to. But even more so than that, know that this is level 1. This is the beginning. As much as we've given you and as excited as you are, this is just the beginning. So some of you are already know that you're going to move forward into Rock Your Own PR and then to get paid. Now we want to flip the switch into the money part. So when we think about, when you start, oh wait, someone's Sharon, yes, is the answer to your question. That's an additional bonus that we're adding on to what was already given. Yes, she's going to send that out. I have a list of things to add.
Okay, good. Because I would say, oh yeah, send it out.
Yeah, we have a list of things. So I got you.
Okay, good.
So I want to flip this into the money element. I'm going to go back to the shared screen, and so we can, just so you can get a snapshot of that briefly if you need to, for those of you that want to, part 3, right, which is the money part. And so what I want to talk to you about is what you're selling, how often, how you're selling it, how you are converting, and how you're tracking what's sold. That's what we're going to talk about right now. So really, I want you to kind of take a breather, about 10 seconds, release the media for a moment. All the excitement about media and being on TV and in magazines and all of that amazingness, and switch back into the work of the business, which is how are you going to leverage this bigness of you, and how are you going to then flip that into money and what that potentially could look like for your business and life. So feel free to snapshot this image, because I'm going to take that off here in just about 10 seconds. So in 2011, I spoke at Spark and Hustle, which now I'm producing. And so my initial talk was how to turn handshakes into bank deposits. And once I got in, now that was the agreed upon talk. That was the talk I had practiced. That was the talk I had flyers for. But when I got there, Tori sprung on me literally on day 1 of the 3-day event. And she says, I want you to speak on a different topic. And I say, okay. And in my mind, I'm mortified. In my mind, I'm like, lady, you are kidding me right now. Please don't do this to me. But she did it to me. And she changed my topic. And the topic that she wanted me to speak on, which, by the way, I hadn't even been really in the damn media for real. Okay. Maybe a couple episodes I had co-hosted, but that wasn't enough. I didn't think I was qualified, but she obviously did. And she still does. And what we talked about was, she said to speak about how to leverage media coverage for cash. How to leverage media coverage for cash ended up being my talk in 2011. So you're getting me in 2018. So 7 years and all kinds of experience later, you're getting me with the same topic in regards to leveraging. So I want to speak to that first. When we talk about the money piece, just remember that a confused mind can't buy. Right? So your brand clarity is for the media and the money part, right? And the business part. And if people are confused about who you are, what you do, what you stand for, then they can't make a decision to support you with their dollars. And you can't provide the transformation or the solutions that you're trying to provide. So keep that in mind always. When it comes to, it's an indirect tie, right? So they're tied together, the media. Everything you're doing is for exposure, right? It's for credibility. It's for accessibility. It shows your accessibility online. And when you are presenting yourself out there, your hope is that Facebook Live turns into something, right? Nikki and I did just a few Facebook videos. None of them were live. They were all pre-recorded. We ran them as live. You all saw them. Again, leveraging our time and our tools to get in front of you, to present you with content and value to help you make a decision to choose an opportunity to be here with us today. And as we've proven, it's been a great opportunity for you, as you've said yourself. So keep that in mind, that some of these things are indirect, but they accumulate and they're necessary, right? So while you may go on television and never mention your book, while your article, for example, you may say, and let me just show you a couple of examples here. If I'm this article in Bella Magazine that I did a 2-page spread on, is it selling? I'm not selling anything. I'm selling myself. I'm selling my expertise. So the woman that reads this, or the man that reads this, they're going to look me up because they're there I am down there, right? So they may look me up and then they'll learn more about what I do. So it's very indirect. Okay. And so I just want you to hear that, because some of you may feel like, well, how do I immediately convert if I can't mention this or that? It's because it's a long-term play. It's a long-term play. And the more visible you are, the more credible you are, the easier it becomes. The reason why I'm going to give you another example of the money here in a minute before I go into the teaching. Even this article that I showed you, that's on the Mariska Hart is on the cover, Hardigay. And then there's the article. Does this article say that I'm a business coach? No, it doesn't say I'm a business coach. Does it look more credible that I've been in a national publication? Absolutely. This is about me and my daughter and Mother's Day. Has nothing to do with anything I have going on right now. But is it relevant that I can land that? Do I have this connection at Hearst Corporation? I absolutely do. In this magazine, Ebony, on the back here, I'm quoted. There's a quote by me. Does it say that I'm a business coach, that I'm for hire? No. Does it add credibility to me? Yes. Is this more places when people Google me and they're looking for certain things? Yes. At that time, because I was in women's empowerment, remember, there's a lot of women's empowerment content. Here was another one. Marie Claire magazine, same thing, right? So quotables in the magazine. And that's why your Google ability is so important, because the media does want to see more than only social media. It's like, oh, okay, right? You're more credible. When people are Googling you to work with you and they're finding articles and different things that you've been in, you want that to be available. When they go to your website, you want to be able to present. Like, I'm redesigning my press page on my website. So when you go to my website in March, there's going to be all kinds of, this new display, because I've had a new website design. So just kind of keep that in mind, that that's the long-term play. And the long-term play, if you are in business, that's what you want. You're not here to be here today and then gone tomorrow. You really want to create the longevity, and media really is the best way to do that. Because social media, as you know, when Nikki goes to search for you on social media, that's going to be gone. Whatever you posted yesterday, they're not scrolling for days, okay? It's like, okay, they said they do this, scroll, looking on their phone, looking on the computer. Okay, yep, she says she does this. Okay, let me go check the other link in her email that she sent me. Okay, yes, she does that. Okay, let me go do my Google search. Okay, yep, no crazies. And that's what they're looking for. So just keep that in mind, that the media is totally a long-term play, right? And by getting the media to place you, because once you're in print, typically all of those things you can find in the online version. And so then your name is Googleable. The other thing I want to tell you is to make sure that you have Google Alerts set up for your own name. Mm-hmm. You can go to Google Alerts, just Google it, set up an alert for your name, because sometimes when the media places you, you don't know that they placed you. And sometimes they don't come back and tell you. All right. So just keep that in mind when it comes to print, especially, or new media, which is online, blogs and podcasts, things like that. Right. All right, let's move into the monies. So I'm going to say this, and I'm unashamed. I love making money. It is the funnest thing ever. It is a game that I play with myself. Literally. I literally wake up with a money goal. And because I've built the credibility, the visibility, both playing with traditional and social media, it's easy for me to make money because I've built up an audience. And so, for example, if I have something to offer, I have an audience that's interested in it. And because I'm clear on who I'm talking to and what their needs are, then I can present that to them. And the people that are interested at that time will say yes. I remember being in Jamaica. I went to Jamaica on a trip a couple years ago. I've been to Jamaica like 7 times. And while I was there, I was waiting on my guests to arrive. I arrived a day early. When I travel, I usually go in a day early, stay a day late. And I was there a day early in a 7-bedroom villa. And I woke up the morning that I was to pick up my guests, and I decided that I wanted to make $10,000. So I was like, I guess I'll make $10,000 today, literally. So I woke up, grabbed my laptop, went out on the lanai, overlooking the Caribbean. And I literally posted that I was going to do 5 VIP days. At that time, it was, I was giving them away for like $2,000. Now it's $10,000. So don't ask me about the 2,000 because that's gone away. But it was 2,000. I said, I have 5. I'm feeling generous. I discounted them for the 5,000 that they were to 2,000 for 5 people to do it within the same month. And I sold all 5 in like 12 minutes. The only reason I can do that is because I had already gained the credibility, the exposure, the audience, and I understood what they needed. So when I tell you that this is proven, we're not making this up, I really mean it. Like, this is real. So keep that in mind, that this is definitely a long-term play. So let's get to these teaching points. And if you have any questions about the money stuff, please feel free to put it in the chat. Oh, Lord, I can't find my, hold on. Oh. All right, so the first thing I really want you to be clear on is what you are selling. A lot of times people are so confused, and I'm going to use the word confused because that's what it is, confused, and are offering too many things, and nothing is, and this is why, typically, from what I see, correct me if I'm wrong, you try to sell one thing, it doesn't work, so then you just create something else. So instead of tweaking the thing that you already created, then you start selling something else. And then that doesn't work, so then you create something else, then you end up with a whole hodgepodge of things. And that's really not necessarily the best way to make this happen for yourself. So be very clear right now, and on your notes in this section, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bullets that I'm going to be covering. So this is number 1. What are you selling? And be clear on that. So for those of you that are saying, oh my God, I got several things. For the purposes of this, I want you to pick one thing. My goal for you is to be able to create at least, I'm like the 8 to 10K a month girl. And let me tell you why. It's because when I first started, 8K was one of my first big goals. 8K was one of my first big goals, because I was like, okay, if I can get to 8K, that means I'm almost at 6 figures, right? 8333.33 is 6 figures. 0.34 for that last one, right? So I always was like, I need to get to 8 to 10K, because that's going to change my whole world. I don't know anyone that makes 8K. My mama never made 8K. My parents together never made 8K. So 8K was like superseding all my family history, and would be a good amount of money that I could use in my life. And at that time, it was lifestyle money. Not so much anymore, but it used to be. And so be clear on what you're selling and what that dollar amount is that you need. Now, a sidebar, I recommend that everyone have a 3-tier financial goal. And your 3-tier financial goal, for those of you who have worked with me one-on-one, you already know that the life goal is the money that you need. Please write this down. The life goal money is the money that you need to take care of your current day life. Your lifestyle money is the money that takes care of your current day life, plus the stuff you want for your lifestyle. For example, let's say that my life number is 15,000. Well, my lifestyle number may be 25. Why? Because inside of my lifestyle, in addition to taking care of my life expenses, I want a boat. I want to send my niece to private school. I want to remodel my parents' home. I want to be able to afford to donate, more money to causes that I care about. So there's things within your lifestyle that you actually want. So I like for people to be conscious of, what does it take to live today? And then what does it take to live for the things you want? Some of yours may not be that high. Don't duplicate, authenticate. So be authentic with what you need to happen, right? And keep that in mind. Somebody tweet that shit. That was a good sound. I need to write that down. Let me write my own thing down, because that just came off the top of my head. So don't copy what I'm saying. Be authentic to what you got going on, all right? With your own numbers, right? So if it's 5K and then 7,500 will be great lifestyle for you, then put that. The other one, the third one, is legacy. So then what does your legacy money look like? For me, it's so funny. I really had no desire to be a millionaire, like none. That equates to about $84,000 a month. And I never even thought that was possible until now. I never thought that was possible before. I was just I'm like, Lord, let me get $2,500 in this business. And then it was, let me get 8. Okay. Let me get 10. Then let me get 12.5. Okay. Let me get 20. Then let me get 30 and let me get 4, so then you have all these things. So 84 really is an attainable thing. And so you decide from a legacy standpoint, if you were to leave something behind and you really was like living it out loud, like what number would that be? And for some of you, it may be 20 grand. Whatever it is, make sure that you're clear on your numbers. So then number 1, what are you selling? I just wanted to say that because I want you to be clear on your money goals. What are you selling? Whatever that is, write that down and write how much that is. For us, for example, when it comes to getting paid, I'm very clear on, I look at things. So because I know what the monthly number looks like, then I look at my product suite. So for the purposes of this, I said pick one thing, but you know what your product suite is. So let's say you have 3 things in the suite. How many of each, based on what you want to push right now, what your audience wants, do you need to sell to reach any one of your 3 tiered goals? So let's just say we're on the life goal. Let's say the life goal is $8K. How many $1,000 products do you need to sell? Okay, you need to sell 8, right? Or if it's 500, you need to sell 16, and you can continue to break that down regardless of the price. Just know what that number looks like. When I talk about how often to get paid and how often you should be selling, let me say this. Think of it like Walmart. Things are for sale in Walmart all the time, every day, 24 hours in some cities. But then they have sales. They have things they want to highlight. Same thing with us. Same thing with you. Sure, you got books and programs and things back there, but there's something that's taking a focus right now. The focus is based on what the market is demanding. That's how you know what to offer. When to pour money into campaigns and such. That's how you know what to offer at that point, because you already know you have things on the shelf. But this thing right here is hot right now. We got other ones, but this is our new addition. So be clear on that. So how often, I want you to be thinking, of course, daily there's availability. But then what are you selling and what are you in the mode of pitching at this particular time? So like for us, sure, I have programs and masterminds and one-on-one sessions, but I'm really only pushing Spark and Hustle, the conference, right? Because that's where we are right now. But people are buying other things in the background, right? Because there's other campaigns and other methods of which we can make money to bring people in the back. So then when I talk about how are you selling it, I do want to spend a little bit of time here, and I want to make sure that I answer your questions. Hold on, let me get back to the actual video. I don't even know if I'm sharing my screen. Am I sharing my screen?
You're not sharing your screen, and I'll demand the chat. So,
all right, cool. All right. So I do want to get to any questions if you have them. So keep that in mind. So how are you selling it? So for me, there's a couple of different ways, and I teach my clients this, that I sell. And I'm going to use the example that landed you here. So I use a method called Teach to Sell. Teach to Sell is a formula that I use and that I teach that basically provides value and then positions an offer. Typically, the value that I'm providing is free. Typically, you haven't paid for it. So it may be via live stream. It may be via a webinar, a free webinar. And then I give you the opportunity to buy. Typically, that's how people land in these types of places. That's how you landed here. We were teaching and talking, interviewing one another. We did a series, I think was it 3 or 4 videos. Mm-hmm. And we taught to sell. We gave away free content to the point where you wanted to become a part. Some of you got in on the introductory. Some of you on the replay got in on the actual pricing of the product, right? And so Teach to Sell is a method that you can use to position yourself to dominate and offer your services. Now, if you're in, like, for example, because I'm in Spark and Hustle mode, of which Nikki will be there. So if you're going to be there, you'll be able to meet her as well. She's going to be teaching on what?
Media.
um, so then the teach to sell model is something that we're currently in right now. So every single almost live that I'm teaching is a teach to sell formula for the conference. And guess what? When the conference is here, or once I'm done, which will probably be about 10 days before the conference, then I'm done, which means I won't be talking about the conference anymore. That's done. Then I'm moving into my next campaign, which I already know what it is. You understand what I'm saying? So how are you selling what you're selling? Remember, you have a shelf, there's products, and then you have whatever is your prime thing right now. For Walmart, those are the rollbacks, right? So based on what the market is asking for, or the season, right? So Valentine's, so you'll say Valentine's things, and they got rings, and you'll see Zales and K Jewelers, because that's what's hot now. And then they'll go away, and then they'll come back. Just like the media has its cycles, so does you, and positioning what you have to offer has cycles as well. So in regards to how, that's what the how looks like. I use a teach to sell model really on everything. So I'm always providing value. And I'll say this, Lisa Sasovich does this thing called the invisible close, which really is just not invisible at all. It just means that people knew that there was an opportunity all the time. Just like this, you all know that at the end of this, because we told you in the beginning that there's more, and that the name of the program is Rock Your Own PR, where you'll go way deeper than what we could here. And look how long we've been on. Like, this is a lot of information, a lot of education. Okay, so just keep that in mind, that teach to sell is a model that anyone can use, even if it's on video. And also, for those of you who are not aware, LinkedIn now has a live platform, and you can upload video from the computer on LinkedIn now. So you can even leverage this formula and this strategy using LinkedIn, Periscope, Facebook, all of those platforms. Okay.
And Instagram.
Oh yeah, and Instagram live. I Instagram live every once in a while. All right, so keep that in mind. So I'm going to hop in really quickly to see if there's any questions before I move forward. Lisa Wade says, Aprille, would you consider a raffle for your $2,000 service? I would buy a ticket or two. Uh-oh, where'd it go? Where did that question go?
Roll up.
Oh, would you? Thanks, Nikki.
I'm here with questions, but Aprille is so hands-on that you kind of just have to get out of her way sometimes. So
you're here with questions. Oh, let me see. What are the questions?
So you just asked the one from Lisa. Lisa wants a raffle for the $2,000 service. I guess the VIP day when it was $2,000. I don't know who does a VIP day for $2,000 anymore, but she would buy a ticket or two.
Oh, you're saying you would buy it now?
No, a raffle ticket to win the service, not the VIP service. She wants to buy a raffle ticket for you to give away the service.
Oh, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I was just going to respond to that, but okay.
Yeah, I would not do that. Yeah. My time is way too valuable.
Akua asked a question, and I already answered it, but she wanted to know if we did Facebook ads, and I told her we did some yesterday for a really low budget. So most of this was organic from the Teach to Sell method. Mm-hmm. Ray Sean says, I'm a consultant, but I sell a POS system. So I think I'm writing this correctly by writing POS system, $1,200 instead of consulting services at rate, at XXS rate.
Yes, I get what she's saying. So she's saying, so I think I am writing this correctly by writing, POS system 1,200 instead of consulting service. Yes, that's what I would do. Because that's just a positioning in the language.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I wanted to speak to, because I'm a visual person. It's hard for me to comprehend by audio, so that's why I have to see what I'm. I'm
going to let you handle it. I'm going to step back and you can.
Okay. I'm sorry. That's my being whatever is going on in my brain.
All at the same time.
Ray Sean says, I market to membership-based organizations. I can sell via my monthly newsletter publications or email blasts. Does Teach to Sell method work in non-video formats? It does work in non-video. That's a really good question. It does work in non-video formats. I'm just going to say, I hate the word newsletter, but can you sell via your, I think you can, I don't know if you really mean newsletter. But people don't typically just buy Teach to Sell. So let me just say what Teach to Sell looks like in an email sequence, right? So if it was in an email sequence, then you may start off, let's say you have 5 tips that you want to share. And at the end, you want to upsell into your membership program. Well, then you would start that off with, I would, if it were me and I were coaching you, I would make that drip probably an audio situation, and not only text. So that way you have audio and visual so they can hear you and read in your emails over a period, because people need over a period. The whole point of the nurturing as you're teaching to sell is so that people really get comfortable with you as their leader and teacher, and that they really understand that you know what you're talking about. And so then by the end, you've given so much value, and then the offer, if it's positioned correctly, then they can purchase from the offer. Now, we'll say this, not all the time have you position your list to buy. Like my email list really is not for selling. Even though I do offer things through email, I really don't overly pitch in my email, because my audience doesn't respond that way. And the reason why is because I haven't conditioned them to. And I don't want to, but that's not a good or bad thing. It's just a preference. I prefer a community model, which is what I use. So you can decide what works best for you. But I would say that I wouldn't just put an announcement that you have something to offer. I would do a lead in. So typically what I do is I start with a story, right? I start with a story, and the story then leads into the content. So I tell them why I'm doing this, what they're a part of, and then I start sharing the content, and then I offer whatever the offer is. Okay. Were there any other questions, Nikki, in the chat that I mean, not in the chat, but the chat that I missed? Okay.
You're good.
Okay. Rayshawn says the association is my client. I have access. Oh, you have access to their 5K membership. Oh, cool. And I'm the preferred POS. Oh, okay. See, look at context. And I'm the preferred POS system provider for their membership base. Oh, awesome. That's great. And then I would ask the association, can you still educate them? Because to me, that's the bigger value than just putting an ad or a link that you could buy this POS thing or a thing. I think if I saw an article from you that was content and I can buy it, then now I'm learning from you as well. And I think that really does go a long way. So I think, yes, both in both formats, video and non-video. And if you have the ability, and let me say this, there's an organization here in OKC, and I asked them, could I, they have me, I've sponsored them several times. And so I asked, I said, hey, can I come and teach your audience? And they were like, yeah, no one's ever asked that before. I said, well, I'd love to do some videos. And why is because they have my target audience, a great referral source. And I was just teaching and then link back to my website. And that really ended up being a really great way. Max is asking, yes, if you got to go, yes, you'll get all the content. Everyone gets all the content. So if anyone has to go, we know it's Saturday and we're over, but we want to be thorough. So please make a note of that. And yes, we will send all that out. Okay, next on the money part. Thank you so much, Max. So I already went over how you're selling. Let's talk about conversions. And I want people to be very clear here on conversions. Why people, first of all, who here understands conversions? Type in a number 1 for understanding, a 2 for no understanding or little. 2 for no or little, 1 for understanding on sales conversions. Okay. 1 for understanding, 2 for little or no. Okay. Thank you for your transparency and your honesty. Jennifer is at her son's birthday party. Help. I love it. Happy birthday to your son. Okay. So on sales conversions, let's talk about that. I want to give you some percentages. Okay. So let me give you some percentages so that you're clear. So we are on step number 4, which is conversions. Okay. We have 5. Step number 4, which is conversions. So in your notes, write down tribe conversions, write down email conversions, write down ad conversions. I want you to be clear there because the percentages vary. So your email conversions, which are digital conversions, is 1 to 3%. That means if you have 1,000 people on your email list, let's do the math together. 1,000 people on your email list. Let's say you have a middle of the road conversion of 1.5%. That's 15 sales, potentially. That means if you've been nurturing that list and you didn't just, have it, and then all of a sudden, because you have something to sell, you just email them today and think they're going to buy. Now let me back that up, because that's not even what would happen. You have 1,000 people on your email list. You send an email selling a $50 product. In order for them to buy the $50 product, they have to click a link. The average click-through rate is about 3%. So of the 1,000 people, 3% click it. So 1,000 times 3% is 30 people. 30 people click your thing that even ever see your sales page. And of those 30 people, 1.5% is the average digital conversion. That's less than one person. See, some of y'all feel like failures because people aren't buying from you, but in actuality, based on your visibility and your numbers, you're actually on target. And this is really big information to understand. And it's applicable to every soul with the business. So I want you to understand how the numbers work, so you don't feel like, okay, I'm trying to do this and this isn't working. So what does this mean? That does mean that numbers do matter, that you have to increase your visibility. This is why media and social media play such a big play, because the more people that follow your clear, consistent message, the better the conversions become, the better the clicks become. Also add to that a fourth one, which is if you're using messenger marketing, because the click-through on messenger marketing is like 50%. And the open rate is the average open rate is 90%, beats email all day long. Okay. So write that down. So messenger, the click-through average is 45 to 50% on click-through, and the average open rate on the messages is 90%. Okay. So just so you're aware. Now, remember I had you write down tribe. So in your tribe, your conversions will be higher, again, as long as you're clear and you're offering what they need. So you get out of that 1%, because your tribe, because they're following you, you're nurturing them the most. They know you the most. The people in your email don't. Why? Because half of them ain't getting your emails, and when they do, they may be sporadic. And so they didn't see the whole long damn story you told because they was on vacation or they were busy or whatever the case may be. They're not checking emails like that. Or that was an old email they gave you and now they got a new email. So all these things come into play, which is why it's important for you to be clear on where you're generating your money from and how, which we talked about a few moments ago. All right. So I know I'm going to have questions on conversion, so I'm going to answer them. Nikki is fielding for those. Oh, she says she's not. She's like, oh no, I abandoned you and your audio issue.
Yeah, you kicked me off of fielding duties. I mean, I'm more than happy to, but. So there's 4 questions in the chat. Are you ready to answer them now?
Sure, I can stop right now.
Okay. So Rosalind did ask, what about messenger conversions? But I think you answered that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Where do you reach your tribe Facebook groups?
Okay, so I love that someone said, well, damn, I need to move my members to Messenger.
Right. Okay.
So where do I reach my tribe? Yeah, so for me and what we do concentrate. I have about 24 Facebook groups, My main group is Coach Speak and Write for Profits. That group has about 16,900 or something like that people in it. And that is our main tribe. The other subgroups are programs and other things that we have going on that people are a part of. So yes, that's where everyone lands. For me, for you, it could be a LinkedIn community. It could be Instagram. For me, Facebook just happens to be my jam because that's where I started, because it was so many years ago and Instagram wasn't even invented yet. So,
but can I just say something real quick to that?
Of course.
Because I think, like Aprille said, I mean, you have to find where your community and where things convert for you.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, everybody was like, you need to be on Facebook. You need to be on Facebook. And even though I have a very large following on Facebook, they don't necessarily buy from me. And so I really, I did a whole LinkedIn training. I hired somebody, and now I teach people how to use LinkedIn, because LinkedIn now is like a cash cow for me. And it's just you have to find your sweet spot. So,
Yep.
Like Aprille has had great success on Facebook, and other people, maybe it may be Twitter, it may be, but you have to figure out what it is. And that's why we suggest that you're not on every single thing.
That's
because
right.
It's hard to really focus your energies where you are, but you have to find the system that works for you and the platform that it works on. But even on LinkedIn, I still use Aprille's Teach to Sell method. And I've tweaked just a couple of things because LinkedIn's a different platform from Facebook, but it's worked really well for me. So you just have to really find where you are.
Okay. Great feedback. Yes. Several people here connected and learned about this on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I don't think I shared this on LinkedIn. I only shared it on Facebook because that's my jam.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, this is very your tribe.
Yes.
And who responds to you and where they respond to you. Because I may be connected with you on LinkedIn, but you won't see my content because that's not my jam.
Right.
Because we can only be masters, right, Matt? We don't want to be a Jackie and Jack of all trades. We want to be effective and profitable.
Right. So I asked another follow-up. Are Ning, I guess, or membership sites outdated? Should everything be moved to Facebook groups?
Oh, Ning, Lord. First of all, I wish they would update their look. I think that, I don't want to say it's outdated because that's not what I do. Right. So I think that a lot has migrated to social. Because people are there so much. Remember when Ning was out, we didn't have all these Facebook groups. It just wasn't there. So as things begin to dominate and become more popular, then the consumers, us, start to navigate towards those platforms. And that makes a big difference as well. So, I'm not going to say Ning is outdated. I wouldn't use it. And I'm not connected to any brand that leverages Ning. I know Boss Network uses Ning. But I'm not connected to Boss Network, so I don't use Ning. And if I had to log into it just to be a part of it, I wouldn't do it. Just because we're already so inundated with and because I'm already in a specific platform, it's just easy to stay there. And that's what it is. Twink says, what about Twitter events? Good for videos with the Teach to Sell method. I think things are good that are effective. So test it. If it's effective for you, over a period of time. So you say, you know what, I'm going to give this 10 days, see what picks up. You test it and see what's there for you. Someone says, how do you manage so many? I have a team. So I have a staff. I don't do all this stuff myself. There's no way I would be able to do it at all. So in the beginning I did, and it was crazy, like most of you and many of you. So, but now I don't, but I have a community. I have a full-time person that their job is to manage the Facebook group. Great questions. So let's move forward in the conversion element. So, Nikki, did you have anything else to add? Or are you good?
No, ma'am, I'm good.
Okay. So in the conversion, in the conversion element, remember, I already went over, your tribe. So in the tribe, and when I say tribe, I just mean, where can your people commune? Where are they communing? The only challenge I have with Instagram, which by the way, I love, okay, so don't get it twisted. I love Instagram. I'm creating an entire women's empowerment brand on Instagram. But what I don't like is that I don't like that they can't talk to each other. I don't like that the content is dependent upon me. So for example, in my Facebook group or LinkedIn group, people can talk to each other. They can help each other. On Instagram, I have to guide every single conversation. And I don't have that type of time. So I don't want to do that. So that's why so you have to decide what that looks like for you. Someone says, how would you prioritize what you've been teaching today if you're currently a one girl band? What I shared with you in regards to get busy with the business first, create a media schedule on when you're going to work it. Once a week, twice a month, once a month. That's how. And that day of the month or that day of the week that's what you do. You do that. And then the rest of the time you're running your business. You can do it. Everybody started as a one-man show. Mostly everybody, every single one of us, or us and one other person. So this is totally doable. Don't be discouraged. Be encouraged that you can do it. Is it overwhelming and get trying and you want to quit and go work at McDonald's or Ross Dress for Less? You absolutely will feel that way. Okay. Just 6 weeks ago, I was ready to go work at Ross. So, I mean, it totally happened. So be okay with it. It's just a part of entrepreneurship. But I wouldn't trade it to go work for nobody ever. I just wouldn't. I like sleeping in till 10 and I don't want to request vacation time. That annoys me to take time off to do regular life stuff. So I could never go back. Let's see. So conversions. So the tribe conversions are higher because those people have already built up a rapport. Your ad conversions really depend, but they really are more in line with the typical 2 to 5% conversions. So your Facebook ad sales conversions, if you're running ads straight to cart, keep in mind, you cannot run everything straight to cart. So don't have your $500 program straight to cart to an audience that does not know you. Now, if you're running retargeting ads, which many of you probably are not, just because based on the type of questions you're asking, if you're running retargeting ads, then many of you, you can retarget to individuals who have bought from you before. So then it could make sense that they see a straight to cart for something of a higher price. If you're running ads to a cold audience, then you don't want those high price things. You want $7, $8, $10, $29, $49, maybe $97 on a cold audience. But you still have to nurture them. So make sure that you keep that in mind. And those conversions average on a sales conversion, not opt-in lead conversions. Those are two separate metrics, are about 2 to 5%. So it's important to understand the conversion so that you can be clear on your goals as you're setting. So for example, if you say, I want to have 10 people in my group coaching program, for example, and you reached 100 people. And if you're not converting at 10%, you're not going to get 10 people. So that lets you know, okay, I need to get in front of more people so I can get 10. How do I get in front of more people? So then that helps you understand the money you got to put in to getting more people to see the eyeballs. You understand what I'm saying? So all of those things go into place when you're wanting to bump up your conversions, right? So then okay, I need more people to see this. Otherwise, I'm not gonna get 50 people to buy my program when only 200 people saw it. That's a 25% conversion. That barely happens in a live conference. In a live event, I can get about 20%. You got to be really good, right? So the conversions depend on the copy that's on your sales pages, right? Your sales pitch on that stage, all those things come into play. Okay. What questions do we have around conversions before I move to our final point, before we share with you the Rock Your Own PR?
No questions have been posted in the chat box, and I haven't seen any come across.
Thank you, Nikki.
You're welcome, my dear.
So if you have any questions, is this confusing? Who is overwhelmed right now? Type in a number 3 for overwhelmed.
So Asua did ask, while people are typing in 3 for overwhelmed and 1 for I absolutely have it, did I miss the tribe conversion percentage?
Yeah, tribe yes. Well, I didn't say it because it depends. I didn't give a number to the conversion for the tribe. What I did say is the tribe conversion is higher than digital conversion, but it will be lower than live event conversion. Live event conversion is about 10, 15% if you're good, 20% if you're great. If you can get more, you're phenomenal. And then it depends on the size of the room, if it's a live environment. The more people, the less your conversion will be.
Barry said, can you touch on live? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Took a breath. Barry said, can you touch on live events? So I guess conversion sales for that?
Yeah. So if you have for example, if you have a room of 50 people, you'll probably close 15. If you're good at the pitch, that's the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
The whole thing is the pitch, because none of these numbers matter if you can't sell, or if you get up there and you just breeze through it and spend 5 minutes. Like, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
You're asking people to spend thousands of dollars or hundreds, you got to give them a little more time than that. It's like buying a house. Look how long you're spending with the real estate agent. You're spending some time because it's a large investment.
So Dominique said, can you go over another conversion example again, breaking down the numbers for what we want to sell?
Sure. Hold on one second. Okay. Sure. So for example, if you want to sell a $50 product and you're going to send it to your email list that has 100 people to it, you're not going to get 50 people to buy that, because the conversion for digital is 1 to 3%. So if you got 100 people on your list, you might not get one person to buy. Based on average numbers. These are all proven numbers. You can look these numbers up. And then you have to take into consideration your sales copy. If the audience is warm, do they know you, or are you cold? A warmer audience will always convert higher than a cold audience, because you don't have to prove that you're knowledgeable to the warm audience. They already know it. You understand what I'm saying? It's kind of like the family reunion. Your immediate family knows that your peach cobbler is the bomb. But at the family reunion, they like, girl, who made that peach cobbler? Did Nikki Woods make that peach cobbler? Girl, Nikki Woods made that peach cobbler. That peach cobbler is the bomb. Then you got people vouching for you, right? And so that's just kind of what it is. So I hope that example is enough. But basically, that's all it is. It's math. It's just plain math on the conversion element. I could show you. Do y'all want me to show you on a board? Does pricing affect conversion? No. Audience affects conversion. Your pitch affects conversion. Because what I think you're asking, Twink, is if it's $5,000, will I convert less? It depends. And I know that some of these I know you're like, damn, well, that's not an answer. No, it is. It just depends. For example, at my conference last year, I sold a $10,000 product. I sold 9 of them. We wanted 12. We got 9. The lower price products also sold. But it really depends on the audience and what they need at that time. And that's really why it's so important to be in tune with your avatar, because then once you understand what they need at that time, then it's good. When you provide coaching, do you help with live event pitching? Oh, you're asking, Ginger's asking, oh, you mean when I coach you, do I? Yes, I have I have the sales. Yes, there's 18 elements of a sales pitch that I train on. Great questions. Nikki, are there any other questions in the Q&A before I move to the last point and we move into Rock Your Own PR? You're muted, boo, boo, boo.
I know, because I got real life stuff happening at the house, like dogs and children. Okay. So in terms of highest to lowest, is it live, messenger, tribe, ad, email? Is that the order?
There is no order. It's what works for you. There is no order. It's what you use. You don't have to do them all. It's what is effective, what converts for you.
Can you include an example of copy and pitch in written format in your template packet? I guess what we're going to send out. Can you provide that?
No, because it's in the program that they're going to buy.
Right. So yes, we can provide it, but it's in the program you can buy. How did you come up with $28 for this webinar when you two are such high-end businesswomen?
We just made it up.
Yeah,
And
and,
maybe
and because it's kind of what we do. I mean, we have high end programs, but I think that we also believe in providing free content and affordable content. So I think it's just part of what we do.
and a part of my strategy, just so you all know, I do a lot of low end of these types of I knew that this content is ridiculous,
Yeah.
insane. We already knew that, and we don't hold back either. I mean, I'm direct with what I'm saying, but I use this as a strategy. So like this will never be $28 again. Right? So for the people that are tuning into the replay, they know that it's worth more than $28. So whatever they paid is still valuable for them. And for the people that did spend $28, then you already know it was a steal. The people that spent the $28 really more so is so that we can teach it. We just happen to have gotten paid to teach it. You understand what I'm saying? And so it really is, it just makes it better to create the content with real people, to me, than it is for me to record a module to teach this, because you all bring out questions. And again, I mean, I have notes here of things that we can add, and this is good information. And this is the first time that we've taught this, but we knew we could have did a whole campaign, and we probably will, create, and we'll probably sell it at the conference, and it'll probably be like $5,000.
Yep. So Dominique, I think, wants to know how many attendees were at the conference when you closed the 9 high-end programs.
200, but not all 200 were qualified for the high-end program.
Right.
So then we're not working with 200. And that's not the only thing we sold. So I made about $200,000 that day.
Okay. So that's it for the questions.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Twink says that giving energy is coming back to us in other ways. It absolutely does. Okay, so last thing, how are you tracking the money? So for someone said that figure just made me cuss in my head. Well, let me just say this. If you're producing live conferences, you should be planning to make 6 figures that day. And you don't need 200 people to do it. I've worked for some of my colleagues and done their sales, and they've crushed 90 grand with a room of 30 people. I mean, it really just depends on the conditioning of the audience and if it's what they need at the time. And this takes some skill. The pitching is really important, and again, cold pitching is different. Even in a live event is different than like a virtual environment, so on and so forth. So like, for example, you all already know that we know what we're talking about. We don't have to convince you of that. We've taught you over 3 hours now, so you already know. You have access to this content forever. You can go nowhere and learn what we just taught you for what you paid. Even if you paid $500 for it, you still wouldn't be able to. You could have paid $1,000 for it and you still wouldn't be able to. The sales conversions by itself, Nikki's first 13 minutes by itself is more than, you understand what I'm saying? So we already know that. And I think that's one of the things why people are attracted to the brands. And that's important too. Like, your brand culture is important. And part of the culture for my brand is people know that when they come to me and people that I'm associated with, that they know that they're going to get real meat and things that they can actually implement. And I stand strong on that. Anytime we do something, we want you to feel like you owe us more money. That's in my head every time I create something. I want to give you so much value that you can implement and do, not overwhelm you, but that you can implement and do, that you feel like you owe me more money. And I don't want it, but I want you to feel that way, which means that you'll feel good about it. Like, damn, that was good. And that's the feeling that I want my students, and Nikki wants her students to walk away with. So in regards to the tracking of the money, we use Entreport in my business. Nikki uses Infusionsoft. I started in MailChimp, where I couldn't really track the money because I had it in PayPal and over here and over there. So in regards to tracking, I really want you to, now this I will send. Let me make a note. I'll send out something to help you. I'll send you 2 things. I'll send you a revenue, a spreadsheet that we use for revenue forecasting. So that's it. I'll send you the revenue forecasting. And it's very simple, but it will keep you on target. You can duplicate the tabs and create them for each month, so you can keep up with what you're selling and what your financial goals are. I might even duplicate them for you and reshape the whole little thing and send it to you. And it will save your life to have the forecasting mechanism, because you can add your product suite how many you want to sell that month, what that potentially looks like. And that is in alignment with your other number. So as far as tracking, you can utilize the tool that I'll send you as a bonus, which I haven't sent to anybody. I only send it to people that do one-on-one sessions with me. So I will send that to you when Nikki sends out the email. I'll make sure that you guys get that. So that's really the big thing. Cal says, what was the ad conversion? I thought I answered that. The ad conversions is 2 to 5% on cold and sometimes warm. So the ad, and let me say this, there's an industry average, and those are the numbers I'm giving you. How good you are dictates if you get them or if you meet them or beat them. Okay. How good you are if you meet them or beat those numbers. Okay. Dominique says, I want to ask a question about how we'll be packaging this to create a $5,000 product, but I'm not sure if it's appropriate or not. Well, you did ask. I can briefly answer. I mean, basically, there's more content and more we'll be adding. To make it $5,000, we would add us and accountability to make it happen. That's how we do these things. So like people that catch the replay, or even you, once we get done with this, we're done. So there is no follow-up. There's no accountability. There's none of that. We're done. Those of you who go into the next level, which is Rock Your Own PR, then you'll get more information and more training. For those of you who go higher, then you'll get more, which means the more money you invest in the result that you're looking for, the more access you get to the person. And the deeper the content goes. We can't give you $5,000 to $10,000 worth of content in this setting because it's like going from kindergarten to college. You can't do that. You've got to get the foundation element first and get your discipline together. Otherwise, you'd waste $5,000. You understand what I'm saying? You would waste it, and because you don't have the discipline to even do what's at this level right here. Okay. So I just wanted to share that with you, and I appreciate you, all of you, for tuning in, for taking time out of your Saturday. We know this. We don't take this lightly. We don't take it lightly. We're taking time out of our Saturday as well. And we just want to make sure that you get what you need, you get what you came for, and we know that you did. So before we go into the Rock Your Own PR and tell you a little bit about that, can you please type in the chat box how this has been for you, and we'll give you another opportunity to do that as well. And don't just say great. How will you implement it? That's what I want to know. How will you implement this? How will you track your money now? And how will you reach out to the media? Like, what do you plan to do? What platforms will you land or will you go after this year? So make sure in the group, you don't have to do it now, but in the group that you let us know, and we'll be tagging you to get that feedback. Why? This is another teaching moment. Why am I asking you to do that? I'm asking you to do that because we're selling it for $5,000. And you prove the point. And some of you are going to land the media like you're supposed to, and you're going to tell us when you do because we're going to ask you to, and you're going to want to brag about it. Hey, I was featured in this because of X, Y, and Z that I learned on Media Money with Aprille and Nikki Woods, right? And then we can use that and leverage the testimonials from real people. I hope that y'all are taking notes. This is a lesson behind the lesson. And we can leverage that and then upsell into a larger program for the same type of thing. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm just saying, take a note. So now, do we have permission to share with you about media, the Rock Your Own PR program and the Get Paid bonus? 1 for yes, 2 for no. And it's not even $1,000. So for those of you who want to hang up, you're like, oh my God, it's going to be thousands of dollars. It's not. Okay. So I'm not even going to go there. Nikki, you want to get started? What is in Rock Your Own PR?
No, absolutely. Thank you so much, Aprille. This is, I like, sometimes I just sit at the feet of the queen and just learn. I love when she talks about money. She gets so passionate about it. And I always walk away with some good nuggets. So sometimes I was sitting there taking notes too. So I really, really appreciate that. And I actually got a peek at the Get Paid boot camp. And so I'm excited about that too. But what we are is offering you an opportunity to go deeper. Some people will be able to walk away and implement these things, but for people who really want to learn how to make this work, for people who really want to learn how they can have a conference, get the visibility they need, and walk away with $200,000 on one day, this is for you. And so Rock Your Own PR really is going to go even deeper into how you can create your key messages, how you can build your media list. I have extra goodies in there, like my Rolodex, and there's a PR and marketing calendar that's a part of it so that you can actually plan out your content calendar. We're going to talk about how to develop those relationships, how to leverage it, also how to make sure your website is ready, how to make sure that your pitches are on point, but also then how to develop the sales funnel so that you get people into your funnel and then you move them along until they are eventually, as Aprille talked about, converted into clients, because we're not really selling on the interview. So how do you then get them in your funnel and move them along so that they are eventually paying you what you need? So we go through all of that. We put together a media kit. I show you how to put together a press release. I do live pitching in most of my groups. So, we can brainstorm on ideas. I show you how to do that. I mean, it's so hands-on. I'm super excited about it. You guys are going to really get the first opportunity to get all of this in-depth content in one place. And so
pitch templates.
I provide a ton of stuff. And so it really is going to be good. And so since this is the first time, that's a good question, Twink. You guys will get the actual in-person run through. So it is virtual, but I mean, because I'm not going to just record everything and put it in the group, you're going to actually go through it with me just like we did today. Mm-hmm. And so that is going to be a great experience, not just for me, but for you guys too. And so it's going to be awesome. So
is it 5 weeks or 6 weeks or what is it?
It's 5 weeks.
Can you post the link, Nick? I can't find it on my thing.
And just like Aprille said, I mean, you're going to be paying for access at a price that will never be seen again. So let me find it.
She's going to post a link. And so just to continue forward, so Rock Your Own PR is 6 weeks of once a week meeting with Nikki. You'll get module-based education as well. You'll get a PDF workbook, which you can print out yourself. I have it here myself printed out, that you'll be able to follow along. This is, remember, a long-term play. You will not have to take another media class. You will not. In addition, you also will get as a bonus my Get Paid Bootcamp, where I go and break down, for those of you who have never heard of it, break down over 6.5 hours of training, literally 6.5 hours of your audience, attracting your audience through varying ways of marketing. And if you thought I broke down the sales conversions here, it's really a deep breakdown. It's $500, is it $497?
Yes, it's $497.
It's $497. It's a one-time payment that you can make. The link has been posted right there. It says bit.ly/Media Monday bundle. And yes, you get the boot camp too. So you get both of them. I know that this is over $5,000 worth of content. You know that it is also. And so there's no convincing here. If you think it's a good fit for you and you want to get it, $497 is what we're offering it for today. After that, it's going to be $997. And that's pretty much it. All the details are there inside of the page. You have access to us to ask questions. The group for the Media and Money Bootcamp is going to be alive for 1 week. Inside of the Media and Money, because I'm getting ready to do a lot of things with the media that I'm not publicly able to talk about right now. And Nikki has some things going on too that she can't talk about either. But we really want to make the media in these trainings a part of my repertoire of things in my connection with Nikki. And just to make you aware, Nikki and I are actually partnering as business partners in the Nikki Hunt Agency, and media and social media and celebrities really is our focus. So we're really shifting from not just our current businesses and who we serve, but also a higher profile in the media and helping higher profile individuals leverage their media and their social media so that they can get paid. So that's why this is such a big deal for us. And you are our kind of our inaugural group. So you really get the majority of the meat, because you get that access. After this, the $997 will just be recorded. and it won't be live. There will be no live element to it. It'll be recorded and people can buy it, and that will be that. Does anyone here have any questions about the Rock Your Own PR? I will say that the start of it, Rock Your Own PR, does it start on is it March 5th?
It's March 5th.
So March 5th starts Rock Your Own PR. Once you purchase, you immediately, you will receive the Get Paid boot camp that we'll want you to start and be done with before you start Rock Your Own PR, because there's things that like we did today that I need you to work through and understand. And because I want you to be getting paid, so you don't have to wait. So that way you can go ahead and start learning, taking that education, implementing it, and there'll be a separate group that we'll have for the actual Rock Your Own PR students. Right? The Rock Your Own PR and the Get Paid students, there'll be a different group, because what we're monitoring is how much media, how big are you blowing up, and how much money are you making over these next 6 weeks. And that's what that looks like. So I think people may have questions. I don't know if they have content questions or what. But I will come back to those. I'll post those questions inside their content questions, and I'll post them inside the group. Does any questions for any questions about the Rock Your Own PR program? And Nikki, you were going to say something. You were looking for something while I was.
Oh, no, I was looking at the questions.
Okay, great. So for those of you who are really looking to increase your exposure exponentially, but more importantly, want the hand-holding, the accountability. That's really what this is about. The making sure that certain things happen and the consistent access over the next 6 weeks to make this happen, then that's who Rock Your Own PR is for. You already know the level of the content that's going to be taught, but really if you want to see it through over the next 6 weeks, that's what that looks like. So if you look at the next 6 weeks, because y'all know I'm a money person, over 6 weeks, there is 42 days. So if you take your $497 divided by 42, that's about $11.83 a day that you're spending to create a long-term plan for your business. And this is something really that a VA can do. Some of this stuff, your VA can be pitching for you. They can be responding to your HeyRos, and all that stuff. And we'll teach you best strategies to leverage your time, whether it's just you or you have a team, to make this happen so you can do your blitzes to increase your profile. Nikki, is there anything you want to add before we go?
Well, I did want to speak, or you speak to Shauna's question. If my business is brand new, should I do this? I've had 3 clients in 2017 who have started with nothing and are now close to 6 figures just because they leverage the media. So it's one of the best ways to start a new business. And surely with the techniques that Aprille is going to teach you as well, you're going to learn how to bring in different streams of revenue as well. So yes, yes, you should do this.
Yeah, the Get Paid Bootcamp really is everything. Because here's my teaching style. I want to be done with this, right? So I don't have time to drip. Like whatever you ask, you see we answered. I don't have time to I already told you that Rock Your Own PR was coming. You understand what I'm saying? So I just like to give you all of what you need, as not to overwhelm you, but enough so you can start to implement. And the answer to Shawana's question is yes. It doesn't matter if you're new. The media is not asking how long you've been in business. They're asking, is your business relevant to our audience? That's what they're asking. And how can we present the best possible way for that to happen? So none of this includes any one-on-one, just so everyone's clear. It's a group class, and we hope to see you inside of it. The link has been posted. We'll post a link inside. There's 3 other questions pending that we'll post inside the group as well that we'll answer. And that concludes, I think, right, Nikki Woods?
I think it is a wrap, as I would say.
How did we do? We went over an hour and a half, so now we know.
Right, this is a 4-hour boot camp.
Yeah, and not serve the people and answer their questions. If we didn't answer any questions, then we could have
been fine.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank you for allowing me to invade your space today and to teach you. And I hope that we see some of you all inside of Rock Your Own PR. Mm-hmm. And if you have any questions for Nikki, then you also know where to reach her. Nikki, I'll let you close it out.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. I mean, certainly we will post more information in the group. We appreciate you, like Aprille. I don't take this lightly. I mean, it's a Saturday afternoon and you could be doing absolutely anything else. So for, the 98% of you to hang out with us for 3 hours, I think is amazing. And I look forward. I mean, it's going to be really, like I said, a game changer. This boot camp was the beginning, but think if we do this on a Saturday for $28, what you're going to get, when you spend even more money. And so I'm really excited. I will see you guys inside the group, but I'll also see you inside the course because I think that this is going to be amazing.
Absolutely. And last thing, thanks for that, Nikki. I'm going to, Nikki, will you shut the recording down just so we can complete it? But I'm going to finish answering the questions in the Q&A chat just to be concise.
Okay, so I'm going to stop recording now.